A second stage win for the French yesterday. The French national champion taking the tricolor home. A wonderful victory coming from a long way back. When he made it with 300 meters to go to that final turn, he got it absolutely right. A glorious victory for Arnaud Démare. As well as two stage wins, he has the Maglia Ciclamino. Oh, it's wonderful. I had really good sensations after that little bit of a climb because I was going full gas. 10% it was. After that, Simon Guglielmi told me to get at the front of the peloton and I told him to wait. I was going very fast, but I needed to recover. We were all on somebody's wheel. And then at 800 meters from the line, I tried to go back to the front. I saw Astana passing next to me and I took their wheel. Then the road was wide, the finish was nice, uphill climb, just slightly. And then when I launched the sprint, I knew I was going to win. Win he did. Let's get the dissection of exactly what happened from the expert, Rolf Aldag.
Wow.
One word for Arnaud Démare. Wow. Why wow? Well, let's look back at yesterday's hard finale. 10% ramp, 2K before the finish line and a technical parcours where it's a real challenge to gain position. And how far back does Démare come? Well, we're seeing here a reduced pack with a few sprinters, but all the guys who have GC in mind as well, and he's hidden in the group, rather at the back. If we count, we see him in position 21 here, with about 700 meters to go. He's quite a long way from the front, but 700 meters later he wins the sprint in pretty dominant fashion. So an outstanding position, especially how we think how long this sprint was. I counted the pedal strokes. He did about 22 or 23 pedal strokes, which makes for a sprint of about 230 meters. If he advances 10 meters per pedal stroke, that is a very long sprint despite the efforts before, despite the fact he had to fight back. So really a big wow for Arnaud Démare.
Also ein wirkliches Wow für Arnaud Démare.
Joao Almeida, in the meantime, is still in the pink jersey. Let's have a quick look at the general classification before stage 7. And here it is, Almeida leading 43 seconds ahead of Bilbao. Kelderman in third place at 48. Van Hoeke in fourth at 59. Nibali at 101. Stage 7 will take place between the glorious city of Matera and finishing in Puglia in Brindisi. Stage 7 of the Giro to Brindisi. What do we have here? Well, a flat stage. The profile's not very demanding, but we have to look out for the wind. The parcours largely exposed. We've got winds from the north. The peloton riding from west to east, as you can see. It's the whole day the same sort of direction, and the winds blow into the side of the peloton. The task is to protect the leaders, to make sure they don't lose time, and then focus on the finale with the sprinters who are left. Who's the favourite? Well, Arnaud Démare. He's riding the ride of success. There's Sagan, who's got unfinished business. Ballerini, he's got another opportunity, but Gaviria and Viviani are under pressure to show something today. It's 143 kilometres. We go from Basilicata to Puglia, back towards the sea and towards Brindisi. The third oldest city in the world, Matera, absolutely spectacular. Carved into the rock on the hill in the south of Italy. We saw yesterday towns on the way, and this town itself have been used as film sets in recent years. It is like going back in time, beautifully preserved and very, very well protected. It's an effort to get to Matera, but once you've made the effort, it looks as though you're rewarded, just as Arnaud Démare was yesterday. There's been talk in recent years of the Giro d'Italia starting here. We reached here on day 6, but we will leave on day 7. 143 kilometres on the way to Brindisi. Promises to be an interesting day, and one that could explode any minute. The wind is a-blowing, and we're on our way back to the exposed coastline of Puglia. All coming up right after this. Buongiorno. What a look. What a start. And this is how it looks in town. Harampohuka in the white jersey still. Pipo Ganna in the blue. Pink jersey on the back of Joao Almeida. And Arnaud Demar swaps his French champions jersey for that of the points classification leader. Well, a more spectacular neutralized zone you'd be very hard pressed to find. The start in Matera, in Piazza San Pietro Caveoso, surrounded by hills, town carved into the hill. And just as the French champions' colours were worn with pride by Arnaud Demar, Ciclamino looks pretty good on his back as well, and he'll be hoping to hold that all the way now to Milan. It's the fourth time we've started a Giro d'Italia stage in Matera. Why don't we come more often? Just look at that. Well, wherever you're watching around the world, we know that some of you are watching, maybe sneaking in a look at work on our digital platforms. Plenty of you watching down under, staying up into the very, very early hours. Good news for you is tonight's not a school night. Have a lie in the morning, have a drink and listen to us. Or at least if you have to turn us down, watch the images, because they really do speak for themselves. To stage 7 now, approaching the second weekend. And one more mountain stage to go before we get to the first rest day. Great performances cooked up so far. And thankfully today, moving nice and slowly through the neutral zone. Brian Smith, it's nice to see actually after the chaos of the other day and the slippy cobbles and Geraint Thomas and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, nice to see. And you know, you're talking about Matera, and such a beautiful place. As a bike rider, you don't always take these things in, and I think listening to Bernie as well, I think he said he was 5th in the stage here, but then yesterday he was saying how beautiful this place. So as a bike rider, you're in a bit of a cocoon. You're concentrating, okay, you're talking to the riders round about you, but you don't really take it in because you're thinking about the race more than anything.
Luciano Pavarotti used to sing La mia canzone al vento, my song to the wind. Today, there could be quite a bit of singing in the bunch. Certainly for those faster riders, certainly for those who like the wind, certainly for those who are up for the battle. We're rolling out of beautiful Matera in Basilicata right now. And we're heading to Puglia on the coast, exposed. You have the Adriatic to the north, the Ionian to the south, the Mediterranean all around the corner. The wind is going to blow on exposed roads across the side of the peloton the whole day long. There will be some fearful general classification contenders. There will be those looking to the home and winning a sprint who will be very excited indeed. Another very interesting day in prospect at the Giro d'Italia. On paper, one of the easier days, but the weather conditions about to perhaps make it more difficult. Third oldest city in the world in Matera hosts the start for the 4th time. And we cannot wait for things to get underway. First of all, let's go back to yesterday.
sharp left turn at 1.2k and sharp right at 700 metres.
That was yesterday, this is today. Brian, we're admiring the beautiful scenery around Matera. 143 kilometers on the menu today. The wind is going to blow though, and we're expecting a nervous day more than anything, aren't we?
I think we're going to get a very nervous start, but then it kind of, a third of the way through the race today, or the stage today, it kind of goes down towards Taranto. A northwesterly wind, but a bit more of a tailwind. I think the major concern is after the second sprint of the day, the bonus sprint of the day. It pretty much looks like it's going to be crosswinds all the way to Brindisi. So I think that's going to cause the concern, and the fact that it's only 143 kilometres, it's going to be fast and furious. Demar, hard to see past him. What an amazing sprint yesterday he did, but we haven't really seen Gaviria yet, and he has to come up with something today. Milano got the heads up to go for the sprint yesterday, so I'm expecting Gaviria to be there and thereabouts.
Time to go back before we get the flag today and have a look at some stories. Giro stories time.
Normally it's just
Well, we're beginning with
fines,
Twitter.
but I believe Whitey owes the UCI 200 Swiss francs for urinating in public.
It was against the brick wall. Gino and Fausto were having a piss at the same wall.
No, it wasn't me.
Yeah, you were there. Apparently I've got it on good information.
I was just honking the horn, making sure everyone was looking.
I worded that conversation, mate, you have to urinate in 6.5 hours, and I was very discreet where I did it against the wall.
Well, a bit excessive maybe for the UCI, but they've got a few things to pay for. In the meantime, Arnaud Demar practicing perfect social distancing. Nobody else in the photo. Good power numbers from Michael Matthews, not good enough to win. Max power of 1200 watts there over 27 seconds. It's a good watch, wasn't it? Even on the replay. And a new Maglia Ciclamino. The French flag disappears, and on comes the point jersey for Arnaud Demar. And it was a really nice homecoming for Domenico Pozzovivo, the man who's ridden more stages of this Giro d'Italia than anybody else in the peloton. Homeboy Domenico Pozzovivo starting from Matera today. Not too far down the road he comes from. Almost ridden 250 stages now in the Giro d'Italia in his career. If he gets to the third week, he'll pass that mark. Magnificent Matera, third oldest city in the world, preserved absolutely beautifully, and it's the scene for the start of stage 7 of this Giro d'Italia. We're about to leave the region of Basilicata, not often visited by this race, and we're going to head into Puglia. Puglia, it's flatter lands and it's wide open spaces, exposed to the wind today blowing in off the Adriatic. A short stage today, flat, no King of the Mountains points on offer. So as long as Pipo Ganna gets over the line, he will remain in the blue jersey. Joao Almeida will be nervous. Any splits today could cost you time in the GC. But it's all about trying to make sure you put it together for a stage win. Well, the sun is shining. No clouds around. It's going to be a sunny day all day, actually. But we're hearing of winds forecast 20 to 25 kilometers per hour. Mostly side wind. As Brian was saying, a little bit of tailwind as well along the way. It seems like it is cross-tail to start, tailwind after that, and for the final third, probably a direct crosswind. Run-in looks pretty tricky as well. We're going to hear from Bernie Eisel on that subject later on this afternoon, I'm sure. Looking at the last couple of kilometres, we've got a few roundabouts. And in that 2 kilometre mark to 1 kilometre mark, you have 3 turns to the right at 90 degrees and 1 turn to the left at 90 degrees. Last kilometre, long straight road, no problems there. And it is a bit of a wind coming from the side there as well. We'll finish on Viale Palmira Togliatti later on today. Today we are winding down through Matera and at a very slow speed given what happened the other day. Haven't been down here, Brian?
Not to this particular point. But I've been down this way with you, and there's some special places in this area, special towns.
Oh, we can see just in the background there, you can just see the riders making their way down through town. With all the twisty and turny nature, it seems that the shots of the actual riders at the minute are struggling to get up to the helicopters. We've already had some disappointing news today, haven't we, in the world of cycling. Paris-Roubaix, unfortunately, has been cancelled this year. Well, we've woken up to the news this morning that Paris-Roubaix has been cancelled, unfortunately. We're here at the Giro d'Italia, though, and we're heading from marvellous Matera all the way out to Brindisi. It'll be the first year, Brian, without Paris-Roubaix since 1942. And it's the worsening situation in relation to COVID-19 that has caused the problem. No Paris-Roubaix this year, but we do have the Giro d'Italia. Things have just begun, and it seems as though a 4-man breakaway is already trying to get up the road. We've got one rider desperately trying to get across there, and Brian, the early signs are that everybody wants to calm this down because they know what could happen later on today.
Yeah, one man that doesn't want to calm it down is Thomas de Gent. He's in the breakaway yet again. He's having a very good Giro d'Italia. I'm sure that, you know, after the disappointment of the Tour de France, just not getting that stage when he went there for it, he looks in better form, and you know, hoping that, you know, every day he gets in the breakaway that possibly it's a stage for him. But I just don't think it's it's a stage for him today, although he thinks somewhat differently. But yeah, calm in the peloton for the time being. 4 riders being chased by 1.
Thomas de Gent, yet again up the road. We've seen him looking for those King of the Mountains points the other day, but there's none of those on offer today. 2 intermediate sprints, and well, a chance to show off the jersey, because if Groupama FDJ are interested again, they will surely work to bring things back. Today's the first fully flat day. Today's the day we can properly say that we expect a full bunch sprint. But the wind could change that. You have to be very, very careful as the day goes by. And it looks initially that everybody, sprinters teams and GC guys, want a calm start. If there's any funny business going to happen, well, I think they're all happy to let it happen later on today.
Yeah, they want to save their energy for later, as you say, in the crosswinds. But you know, most of the sprinters are okay in these kind of situations. It's maybe some of the GC riders that may falter a little bit. You know, I'm thinking more of Pozzovivo more than anything else. Small, maybe not suited to the crosswinds. But 4 riders in the break already. Pelot of Androni, who has been in the breakaway already. Czerny of CCC. De Gent, you've already mentioned. And Frapporti again in the breakaway.
Androni Giocattoli are doing what Androni Giocattoli invariably do. Brian, they have made the breakaway on every single road stage so far of the Giro d'Italia.
Exactly that, and I think I never saw the rider who was trying to get there, but you mentioned it was Bardiani that was always... They instigate the breakaways, they're always in the breakaways, but they have been quite quiet until yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see what that rider was, or who the rider was that was trying to get across there.
Yeah, they suffered a blow actually to Bardiani, one of their main breakaway men. Mirko Maestri was supposed to come to the Giro d'Italia. He's one of, I would say he's their biggest guy for the breakaway actually. If you can think of all the breakaways in the Giro in the last 2 or 3 years, he's been almost like one of those Frapporti riders. It's been Maestri for what is now Vini Zabu, and Frapporti, who used to ride for Androni, was representing those in the red and white, wasn't he? But Maestri had a crash whilst riding through a tunnel in northern Italy, building up to the Giro d'Italia, and he broke his right scapula, so he's not here, unfortunately. And some of the riders, well, they had a bad bit of news on the opening day when Luca Covilli didn't make the time cut, and it's not been the easiest start for the young riders in Bardiani colours. Let's see who gets across though. It is in fact Mazzucco. So Mazzucco who is trying to get across there. He is the youngest rider in the race, Brian. Fabio Mazzucco, just 21 years of age. He's 16 seconds away from making the breakaway. So it looks as though he's going to get across. Yesterday we had the second youngest rider in the race in the breakaway, Filippo Zana. But Mazzucco is 27 days younger than his teammate, and Fabio Mazzucco, the youngest rider in the Giro d'Italia, is on his way to make the breakaway. Quite a learning curve.
Yeah, and a good opportunity for him in a flat stage. So he only has to contend with, and I say only has to contend with potential crosswinds later, but it's a lot easier, safer. It's nice and flat today, so a good day to be actually in the breakaway. So 4 hopefully will become 5, dependent on Thomas de Gent.
Well, Czerny is a very strong rider, isn't he? He is the Czech time trial champion. As we see Helio Kessa doing what Helio Kessa is going to be doing a lot today, I think, which is coming to the front. But there's no rush, no chase yet. And Joao Almeida and company will be happy to let this gap grow as far as it wants to, really. And then it will be down to the sprinters teams to take things up. It'll be down to Groupama FDJ, Bora Hansgrohe, UAE Emirates, and probably Cofidis, because the pressure is on Elia Viviani to take a stage win anywhere.
Well, you know, looking at what happened yesterday where everybody just sat back, you know, you could see that Sagan talking to Groupama, and they decided no, they're going to leave it all to Bora. I cannot see Bora riding today. A little bit, you know, kind of tip for tat, and I think the onus would be on Groupama FDJ to ride. They have got a solid team. They've got a team purely behind their French champion in the Cyclo Mino jersey today. But you can see Leo Kajsa right in the white line in the middle of the road. He done a lot of riding yesterday, so he'll just ride tempo. The best placed of the riders that are in front is Thomas de Gent at 33 minutes. So no danger in the overall in a short stage. They're not going to gain too much time, and really the onus is on the sprinters team, especially Groupama FDJ today.
1.5 minutes is the current gap, but given the pace and the lack of rhythm in this group, they're going to let it grow quite a lot. It's an easy, almost freewheel out for the first 20 kilometers or so. Mostly downhill until we get to around 30 kilometers into the race. And then there's long flatlands. Hardly any climbing on today's stage. Hardly any climbing at all. And I mean that, and I'm not just talking about classified climbing. Unclassified climbing, I really can't see much either. This is just about as flat a stage you can get on the Giro d'Italia. And that's why the wind is going to pose more problems. And well, the breakaway might already be posing problems for Fabio Mazzucco, because instead of closing in, he was at 16 seconds, he's now at 41, and he might have left it a little too late. If you're in the four-man breakaway, Brian, you know you're going to get time here from the peloton. Do you not wait back and let him in?
Well, I just said that a little bit earlier. It really all depends on Thomas de Gent, if he wants him on or not. So we're seeing kilometre 0 here. Thomas de Gent just in the left-hand side. No initial reaction. So, but you know, we'll wait for the rider from Androni goes first, and he did that the other day, Simon Perlot, and he got himself in the breakaway. That was the stage that Demar's first stage. So on the slight rise here, he takes with them Frapporti. Bardiani did try to get in the breakaway initially. You can just see the purple jersey with Thomas de Gent just behind, and then pretty much you know, over the top, Thomas de Gent decides to go, and whether that's the rider Mazzucco, never made it because he doesn't have the power, but he's dropping a little bit further back, and I really don't think the four riders are interested in it and waiting up for him. So I think it's game over for Mazzucco, unfortunately.
Well, that would not be good news for Bardiani CSF. 41, so he's getting a little closer. He was at 46, 47 seconds.
If the four riders realise they've got over, you know, almost 2 minutes now, and the gap going up and nobody chasing, then there's an opportunity for them just to ease back a little bit and let this rider on. So I think over the next maybe 5-6 kilometres, it's their choice. If they want another rider in the breakaway, or they're happy just with the four riders that are here, because we know how strong Perlot is. Czerny, you've already mentioned, strong rider. Thomas de Gent, Frapporti will ride to the end. So there's four strong riders in this breakaway. Do they want another rider here? Sometimes a team like Bardiani, if they've got a rider just behind, they'll sometimes come to the front and say, well, if you don't like our rider on, we'll chase you back. But I can't see them doing that.
But I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Bit of old school team rivalry, Italian team rivalry.
Yeah, it has happened in the past, but it doesn't look as if they're not interested in kind of waiting up.
Right, and we mentioned Paris-Roubaix has unfortunately been cancelled today. Let's go and get the view of that, and maybe problems for the Giro from Mauro Vegni. He's the director of the Giro d'Italia.
Mauro Vegni, direttore del Giro d'Italia.
Mauro Vegni, of course you're in charge of the Giro d'Italia, but Paris-Roubaix has been cancelled. It's a shame, isn't it? Of course, I'm really disappointed. Disappointed because we've lost one of the big classic bike races. Sports-wise, it's a disappointment. But in my opinion, as an organiser, I think about my colleague Christian Prudhomme, because I know the effects he's made for, and of course, the efforts he's made for the Tour. And we're finally not really depending on what's happening in the sport, but on other things. So I give all my support to him.
Poi per cause non dipendenti dagli aspetti sportivi ti trovi costretto a subire l'annullamento della gara, quindi molta vicinanza da parte mia a Prudhomme.
Da organizzatore, il
as an organizer, of course, we know that the situation is quite different in France because there's an increase in cases. Do you worry about the next week of the Giro? Of course, I'm worried because we don't have any more stats about the pandemic right now in Italy. The reality is that there's an increase in cases, though, we think, and it could become one of the most important issues for us and for the Giro. It's something that for us is impossible to control. We're trying our best to keep everything under control, but it's a serious problem that's going to make life harder than usual.
In qualche modo mi rende la vita difficile.
Ultima domanda sulla terza settimana.
Last question, the third week, there's still some days missing. Do you have news about it?
C'è qualche preoccupazione, qualche notizia in più, qualche informazione in più che avete?
Thinking about the weather.
Guarda, io non voglio dare
No, I don't want to give any news. We're ready to manage any situation. Everybody has to keep calm because we don't want to make things that could be dangerous for any athlete. We have a lot of respect for all the riders and we're just remaining calm. I'm asking all the guys here at the Giro that we need to diffuse the topic because if we keep talking about it, it can become a real issue. Let's just see what happens.
Di smorzare il tema perché poi parlandone quello che non è un problema lo diventa. Grazie a voi.
Well, while we were listening to that attack, Mazzucco was brought back and we can see that De Koning Quickstep is at the front. And Brian, the wind is blowing. Things have begun already, perhaps, when we quite didn't expect them.
Well, it was going to blow right from the start. Everybody knew that. The way we go down to the coast, there's going to be a bit more of a tailwind, but you can just see that it looks like possibly, is that Yates trying to come up from Mitchelton Scott. So it'll be interesting to see who is actually kind of missed out here. It was the kind of Dutch and Belgian teams that went to the front, and they kind of looked at each other, had a quick word and decided to put the pressure on, but Mitchelton Scott have missed out here, and they're trying to bring Simon Yates back to the front of the peloton here. It's one of these things, you cannot sit at the back. Simon and his brother Adam, they like to sit at the back. A flick of the elbow now from the rider at the front there, and it's all happening.
It is all happening on the road, and it's fascinating to see. Fascinating to see. You could just see the yellow jerseys of Jumbo-Visma, a few of those at the front as well. Astana with a couple of jerseys in there, but also some trying to chase on. Movistar have missed out a few too, and things are breaking out again. You can just see another split developing there, and this could go on all day long.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be
front. Sorry, Brian.
Definitely going to be casualties, and it was the Sunweb, the Koning Quickstep and Jumbo-Visma pushing things right from the front, and that's the reason why Thomas de Gent, they're not going to sit back and wait. They know this is going to happen. The gap coming down to 120 already. The action is happening now. The pink jersey has to follow, but we've only got about 30 odd riders in this group now. Coming back to this group, you get the white jersey Van Hocker. Just behind this group, you've also got Simon Yates.
Oh, watching Trek Segafredo as well there. Trek Segafredo rider Julien Bernard. You can see Rafael Majka caught here with Jakob Fuglsang and Van Hocker. 106 there for Groupama Ismail Skotsen. Majka there is the man just on the wheel of Skotsen.
He just went on the radio there. Did you notice that there? He went on the radio. He's communicating to his team up there. If there's anybody there, I'm stuck back here. So, yeah, it's this race is absolutely all over the place. Exciting racing, great start, and a few questions have been asked of some of these riders.
Well, little gaps opening up. No time gaps yet. Absolutely fascinating here at the front, though.
Everybody knew this was going to happen, so it's not a surprise to anybody. And the first part of the stage, slightly downhill, cross tailwind, it gets more of a tailwind. So if there's any gaps, they'll open up as we get towards the first sprint of the day, and then it kind of opens up again. So you know, the pink jersey and his teammates, a lot of Deconic Quickstep here towards the front. The Ciclamino jersey is here with the Demar pink jersey. Viviani has also made it to the front of this race. So Jumbo-Visma have got numbers, so that's why they're riding. So it's very important to stay near the front. But Groupama FDJ not contributing. There's about 3 of them looking after the French champion at the back of this group, so they're not contributing. In the second group here is the group of Fuglsang. Then we get the group of Mitchelton Scott, including Simon Yates. So a big group at the back here. There will be casualties behind this, but Fuglsang and Simon Yates are 2 of the kind of main riders that have been caught out here with Rafael Majka as well.
Well, this big group behind coming back, and that's better for those dropped because there's a little bit more motors to work together. And I guess, Brian, that's the thing. If you're caught in a little group like that, that's the worst place to be because you're exposed and there's nobody to work for you.
But you know what, Rob? You don't know who's where at the moment, and you know, very difficult. I would assume that Posavivos here with the NTT Ghana is definitely there. Ben Swift, a lot of them talking on the radio. You can see them talking on the radio to give information because they don't know, they won't know where everybody else is.
And that just adds to the confusion, isn't it? Because nobody knows who's in which group. You ride, and then I suppose afterwards you have to survey the damage.
Exactly, and if you can think, you see Majka,
sorry Brian, but Bilbao in this group, second on GC.
Did you see what Majka, he just went, threw his hand up in the air. Fabro came up and said, what are you doing? He said, get to the front, you know, get to the front, we need to shut this one down. And, you know, the thing is, in my day, we'd never had race radio. It was absolutely chaos. Now they've got race radios, and the riders are actually using it. They're talking into the radio and saying where everybody else is. And absolute carnage. I've not seen Nibali. Did you see Nibali in that front group?
No, there was one Trek Segafredo rider who was Julien Bernard, the very good French climber. We know that Fuglsang is in the group. Bilbao is in this group. Van Hoeke as well. So quite a few in the top 5 in the general classification are struggling at the moment. And this is the gap opening up. And remember, this isn't the only part of the course today that is going to pose problems. We've got those last 50 or 60k, so this might calm down. People may get back in, as we see Tony Martin not too far away. Fuglsang is in the next group. We know that Kruijswijk is in this group. Of course, the Maglia Rosa Almeida in this group. And let's have a look to see if we can see Nibali.
Yeah, I know that Michael Matthews is there, so Sunweb are right towards the front. It was a case, Rob, of who was in the top 20 or 30 just disappeared up the road. If you're caught napping, you know, you're down in this group, and you know, I fear for the riders that are in the group behind as well.
You seriously think this could go on for a long time yet, given the fact that the gap doesn't look enormous yet, but I suppose that the front group is big enough and there are enough motors looking after Almeida to keep this going?
3 teams riding on the front, and you've got Deconic Quickstep, who are renowned for their crosswind strength. You've got Jumbo-Visma, very strong riders as well. You've got Sunweb with you know, many riders towards that. They'll ride all day. The only rider sitting at the back, Kelderman is in this group, so they'll continue to ride. But the only riders that aren't riding seem to be, I don't know why the Lotto Soudal rider is riding at the front when Van Hoeke is in the second group. But Groupama not contributing. If they contribute as well, thinking of you know, the potential stage when they do have numbers there, then it's going to be very difficult for these riders to come back.
The fact today is a shorter stage, does that change things, Brian? Because does it make it a little bit more interesting to press on early on?
Yeah, exactly that, and everybody knew it. 143 kilometres, they can go full gas the whole way. They don't have to kind of hold anything back as well.
Well, looking down for Vincenzo Nibali.
There he is.
There's a couple of his riders.
No, he's not.
It's not him, that is not him. If he's in this group, he's towards the back, which really wouldn't make sense for me. I have a feeling he's in the front group, you know. We'll try and get a view.
It wouldn't surprise me.
The way he races, he would not be down the back of this group unless there was some sort of problem.
No,
it's a fascinating start, though, and this is the gap between them with 124 k's to go. 4 riders went up the road. We thought a 5th was about to go. Fabio Mazzucco suddenly just knocked off the pace, though, and as soon as he was brought back, Deconic Quickstep put the hammer down, and with just less than a minute of a gap, we know that Jacopo Mosca is up here riding, so Vincenzo Nibali is definitely in this group, and he's just behind Steven Kruijswijk. So Nibali in the front group, Almeida in the front group, Majka is distanced. We know that Bilbao is distanced. We've seen Fuglsang in the second group. It's not just about the stage win today. This is about general classification and making a difference on a stage without any climbs.
Yep. It's all happening, and you know, we do have quite a few casualties, and you know, in this front group, I think Sagan is in the front group as well, but Majka is in the second group. Fuglsang, Bilbao, Majka, Van Hoeke, Simon Yates, Pozzovivo in the group. How do we say it? There's a breakaway, then there's the first group of the pink jersey, and then there's the next group. So the next group, the difference is about only about 20 seconds at the moment.
It's the Fuglsang group at the moment. That's what the television's calling it. You even got riders being distanced from this group now, Brian. There's only so much space on the road.
Yeah, but I don't know about this rider, whether he's dropping back for a reason, because it wouldn't be overly difficult to sit at the back of this second group. I think there's another group just behind.
Cofidis with riders towards the front here. We know that Elia Viviani's been looking for an opportunity. I know that Simone Consonni yesterday said that he had a free card in the finale. He'd been told that he could ride for his own opportunities. 10 years since Cofidis have been to the Giro d'Italia, and 10 years ago they won a stage.
Just at the back there, they weren't using the whole road there. I think it was Elio Kaisa, which means that they were putting the back of this front group into the right-hand gutter, the left-hand road as we look at it, because there was a few passengers at the back, which forces other riders to actually come through. Now that everybody's coming through in the front group, they've moved over to the left-hand side, allowing more space.
Well, Simon Poulot at the front, the Swiss rider riding for Androni Giocattoli. Marco Frapporti coming through in the green and yellow. After that, in the white, black and red, Thomas de Kent. And in the orange here, Josef Černý, who's the rider from Czech Republic. Just 21 seconds. Make that 20 as I finish the phrase, ahead of the pink jersey group. We can't quite forget about these guys yet, but it's not looking good for the breakaway, is it, Brian?
No, I think the breakaway will be sitting up very soon. And then they'll have to look at it. Lotto Soudal have got Van Hoeke in the second group. They've got a couple of riders in the group behind, but you know, it was good tactics there from Deceuninck Quick-Step. They decided, well, if you're going to sit at the back, then we're going to put you in the gutter. So now Groupama FDG have been forced to do some work, and so have Cofidis as well. In crosswinds, you cannot be passengers. Nobody's going to drag you to the finish.
Here come the cars past, and the breakaway of the day, at least we thought was going to be the breakaway of the day, is going to be ending just 23 kilometres into the day. Pink jersey about to catch them. The last time we saw this really from the gun in a Grand Tour stage with the win had to be the Vuelta last year. Of course, we saw plenty of attacks on the hills, didn't we, in the Tour de France, as Vincenzo Nibali is in this front group with Fernando Gaviria. We've already seen Arnaud Démare in this group for the sprinters, and I have a feeling that Elia Viviani has made it as well.
Yeah, he has.
Cofidis were riding, weren't they?
Saw him earlier on.
Interesting that Stefano Oldani is in there, the young fast rider from Lotto Soudal, who was originally meant to come here as lead-out man for Caleb Ewan. So that's interesting for Lotto Soudal. There is Consonni, who is with Viviani. 86 for Deceuninck Quick-Step is James Knox. And the man who is with Vincenzo Nibali, sorry Brian, the man who's with Vincenzo Nibali is Jacopo Mosca.
Well, that tells a story. Nothing against, you know, Knox, James Knox, but you don't have to be the most powerful rider to get in the front group. It's just all about positioning and realising what's happening. And James Knox would tell anybody that's maybe not the best at you know, crosswind action, but being in the right place at the right time, and you know, riding for Deceuninck Quick-Step when the whole team was at the front and pressed on, it just goes to show you that you know, a lot of this is all about you know, experience and position.
Most of the big sprint names have made it. Viviani, Gaviria, Hodge. You can know that Sagan is there. Obviously, Démare, who's in fine form. Matthews as well. And for the GC guys, Almeida, Kruijswijk and Nibali. And what's left of the breakaway? Hello again.
I'm just looking at the group here, and I'm not too sure. We know the riders that are here, but Duconi Quickstep, if they get their complete team here, I know there's 1, 2, 3,
7.
4,
7 plus the Maglia Rosa, there you go.
Yeah.
Whole team.
8, yeah, they've got the whole team here. They were on the front line. It was Kaiser, they were all lined up on the front. That's what happens, you get the pink jersey, you're on the front anyway, but you could see that Jumbo-Visma came up in numbers, Sunweb came up in numbers, but yeah, completely the whole team.
It was interesting because when we saw the breakaway go, it really did look like, I mean, for us as spectators, it was quite a disappointing start, wasn't it? Riders going, but you could understand why with those final 50 Ks dead on the side when you thought, well, people are just keeping the powder dry, waiting for later on, waiting till it gets closer to the finish. And then suddenly, as soon as Mazzucco started to come back to the peloton, we were watching that interview there with Mauro Vegni, but could see out the corner of our eye that there was a moment where 2 or 3 riders from the Koenig Quickstep came to the front, and bang, as soon as they hit the first exposed section, they made a gap with this group. And wow, we have quite a situation developing at the Giro d'Italia. No huge gaps yet, but there are going to be some tired legs if this carries on.
But the pressure is on the race. We can see that this second group is now diminished in size as well. So there's a lot of riders being distanced from the second group. This was much bigger. But this is what happens now. Look at Kaiser in the middle. They're talking. You can see Jumbo-Visma. This is a sprint. This is like the end of a race. So they're sprinting against each other. That was the difference. They came up. They sensed it. The experience of Eliel Kaiser and the Jumbo-Visma guys decided that, you know, this is what their forte is, these crosswinds, and they decided, bang, now's the time, and put all of these riders under pressure. You can see them all. Simon Clark coming up, Lawson Craddock, Benedetti's there. You know, they're all trying to ride because they know there's a long way to go. But look behind them, there's still another group behind. It's split into pieces.
There is actually one single De Koenig Quickstep rider who has missed out. I think it's Peter Seri. We'll have a little look.
I think he was in front.
Quickstep rider. Well, there was just one rider there in that group, that's all, who was from a De Koenig Quickstep jersey.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah. Peter Seri,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, a big blow for Pello Bilbao, big blow at the minute for Domenico Pozzovivo. I think he was the man we're all looking at today, weren't we? Just because of his stature, really, and the fact that his team isn't the most experienced at looking after a GC rider either in these sorts of situations. We've seen Fuglsang miss it. We know that Astana are missing 2 big domestiques, aren't they? They're missing numbers too. We know that Fuglsang has missed out. Probably a very good time to go and hear from him. Let's see what his fears were at the start of the day. The minute they're coming true.
Jakob Fuglsang, Giro d'Italia stage 7. Today for general classification rider, probably the only problem could be the wind.
Yeah, probably that's what's going to be difficult today is the wind, and then we see how we go.
You think that someone maybe who's back in the GC would try to change things today and to attack with borders or not?
It's difficult to say. I mean, I think most GC contenders just wants to get through the day without problems, but just the stress that it will create in the peloton and everybody wanting to stay in the front, I think it will automatically be a stressful day, and I think we will see the peloton split up. Then we see how the wind is once we get out on the road, but it's open all day and seems to be a lot of crosswind and tailwind. So.
And what do we have to expect from Astana today?
That we will fight to stay in the front, and the main goal is not to lose time.
Well, that main goal might not be achieved if this carries on. We know there's a long way to go yet. A heck of a long way to go. What certainly is happening though, Brian, is that the legs will be very, very sore, and there'll be a lot of panic created where it didn't need to be created. Even if time is saved, it's another little chink in the armour, isn't it? A little bit more chipping away from those at the front to those behind who've missed it.
It's another part of cycling that you have to be good at. You have to be good at riding in the wind and sensing things, and it's really no surprise that, you know, it's the teams from the kind of lowlands that are that are towards the front. You know, there are individuals here that, you know, like you know, James Knox, who I've already mentioned, that is here because he was positioned well when they started riding hard at the front. So I just noticed that poor old Thomas De Gent, he was in the original breaker, but there's two other riders in here. I think it's James Dibben with Old Danny. So they've been there just in case that it comes down to a sprint at the end. I know we're talking about a sprint with 120 kilometres to go, but he's there to kind of look after Old Danny because they want a result at the end. But poor Thomas De Gent was in the original breakaway. Now he drifted back to the second group on the roads, trying to help Van Hoeke.
Yeah, Harm Van Hoeke was showing lots of confidence actually on social media this morning. Tweeting away. Raise your arms if you have good legs, he said. There's a picture of him raising his arm on the podium in the white jersey. Lots of things to learn, but plenty of confidence expressed. Well, an explosive start. Took a while for the ticker tape to reach the explosives, didn't it? Because we thought it was a calm start, and then it burst into life out of nowhere. A bit like a firework that you might have thought was defective, and finally it goes off. Unfortunately for those in the GC, they were standing a little too close of it when it did, because we've seen a few riders distance. We know that Bilbao, Fulsang, Pozzo Vivo, Van Hoeke all caught out behind. Here, the Maglia Rosa instigated the move. And I suppose, given the strength of the Koenig Quick-Step, and we're talking and wondering what Joao Almeida could do, they will have seen this as, well, we're the Koenig Quick-Step. We are the team who can push it on in the crosswinds. This is where we're going to try and get time in the Giro d'Italia. It's not all about the mountains.
No, and they're taking advantage. The gap says 19 seconds. You know, on the ticker. I don't know about that because, you know, there's a neutral service car in there. But yeah, this is more of a kind of tailwind section. We start heading down towards the coast and the first sprint at Taranto. But the pressure is really on, and there's no really place to hide at the moment in a race. You know, you have to contribute. You have to keep on riding, and you know, even last year when we saw the crosswind action at the Vuelta, you know, it's hard stages for everybody, and you know, the unpredictability of it come the end, because all these riders, it's not as if it's a flat stage, sprint stage, you can afford to kind of sit in the wheels. You have to do your turn at the front.
19 seconds is the gap as per the graphic on screen. People Ganna in the blue jersey and Harm Van Hoeke in the white jersey, Van Hoeke, pardon me, in the white jersey in the second group. Pink jersey Almeida, leader of the race, and the Maglia Ciclamino, Arnaud Demar, in the front. This is Ilio Kessa. How about a Hodge on his wheel? It is all going off at the Giro d'Italia. It's a lightning fast start. We've left Matera on our way to Brindisi on stage 7. Second group on the road on your screen there. This is the first section of road really since it went that they don't have crosswind blowing across it. It's a little bit more protected. Are these the opportunities you really have to try and use to get back on, Brian?
You have to use every opportunity. You know, it comes down to the firepower. If the riders in front, the thing is, it's a mentality. You're already at the front, so. And this is a good sized group. If you ride, you get a little bit of shelter, you can ride all the way. If you start kind of sandbagging and missing turns at the back, then I'm afraid that, you know, the speed of the group goes down and the second group comes back, and then we might see some more action, more crosswind action. So I always think if you're here, you do your turn and you press on, not unless you've got other kind of teamwork to do. You can see the three riders from France Dieu just sitting at the back here, and they're not contributing. Pelot also not contributing, and because he's the only rider from Androni in this front group. So if you don't want this nervousness of trying to get in the front group, then you do your turn. Because these two groups could come together, and in fact the three groups come together, and then we hit another crosswind section. You might be out of position on the second, the second time, and might not make the front group. So the fact that you're in the front group, if you've got a job to do, then you do it. You don't kind of sandbag at the back, not unless you're under orders.
30 riders in the front group, more than 40 in the second. Don't want to think about the next groups on the road. Wherever they are, we aren't seeing them. There is that second group, and it has thinned down in the chase, actually. I thought that might be an underestimation, but it is only about 40 to 50 riders there. We know that Volkswagen Bilbao, Maika, Yates and Pozzo Vivo are in that group.
I think
alongside Van Hoeke.
The whole team of, well, not the whole team, Ineos have missed it as well, so they have nobody in front, so that's why they're riding. Barry and McLaren, another team that have missed out, so this is why these teams are riding at the front. Astana, this is where losing out two riders right from the start of the race comes in. I know that maybe Lopez, he doesn't like this type of racing, but Vlasov would have been maybe a little bit of help. So when you're diminishing numbers, you can just hope that other teams ride, and the fact that Ineos have missed out and Barry and McLaren have missed out, they're actually helping Volkswagen, Bilbao, Maika, Van Hoeke, Yates and Pozzo Vivo coming up. That's if they're still in this group.
I'm going to say I can't see any Mitchelton Scott riders in this group at the moment.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
I'm looking for Simon Yates. Apparently, I'm hearing that the host broadcasters only have 2 helicopters and 2 motorbikes up with the cameras at the moment. Volkswagen, Bilbao, Maika, Pozzo Vivo and company in this second group. Simon Yates was here at 17 seconds from the front group that includes Almeida, Kruijswijk, Kelderman and Nibali. We're talking in GC terms here because this could be vital for the future of the race. But in the second group, Mitchelton Scott en masse seem to have disappeared, Brian Smith, which is not good news for Simon Yates because he was here.
He was here, and they made a big effort to get him here, and you can see that the Commissaire car and Neutral are behind. Trying to see just behind where that third group in the road is, but it doesn't look as if Simon Yates has made it. And what other casualties are here, but the front will push on. Consoned there with Tony Martin and all but one of the Deconic Quick-Step team.
We know that in terms of sprinters, Sagan, Viviani, Dimar, Matthews and Gaviria are all here. A few missing out behind, but the main sprinters all making it, and I should add Ballerini into that number as well, given the fact that he's riding with the Koenig Quick-Step, but I think their immediate preoccupation will be with Joao Almeida. The gap's coming down, so the second group is slowly bringing things back, but in these conditions, until they actually get on, you don't necessarily know they are going to get on. Now, let's have a look. This is, I imagine, the Simon Yates group. There's a few darker jerseys there, and there are the Mitchelton Scott riders. So Simon Yates in this group.
He's actually riding on the front now.
NTT in this group as well.
Van Hoeke, Pozzo Vivo could be here as well. So Van Hoeke is here. Narvaez.
There is Campanat. There is Pozzo Vivo. There is Pozzo Vivo. So Pozzo Vivo and Yates down in group 3.
And Van Hoeke.
Oh dear.
So you've got the main group at the front with the pink jersey, then you get a group with Volkswagen Bilbao, Maika, and then you've got Van Hoeke, Yates and Pozzo Vivo in the third group.
This is the Yates group, so group 3. A couple of the Ineos Grenadiers in there as well. The rest of the team had missed this. So whilst we were away watching the front group, there was obviously split in group 3, and we're hearing the time gap to group 3, Brian, is a minute. That's a big gap to close still yet. As we go back to the front, Christoph Fingston in this front group alongside Tony Martin. We know that Jos van Emden is there with Steven Kruijswijk, who's the leader. The Koenig Quick-Step there with number 82 Ballerini, 85 is Elio Kessa, 84 is Mikel Honoré. So I'm pretty sure that it was indeed, as we suspected, Peter Seri, the only man from that team to miss it. And the Maglia Rosa riding at the front of the Giro d'Italia because he knows he has something to gain.
You have to, and it comes down to power in the group. You know, we've got the second group at still about 15 seconds, the third group at 1 minute, and then the others, you know, I fear for them. But if this continues, it's really about, you know, who's got the power. This is the looks like the second group in the road with Micah and Bilbao. That's the reason why these riders are riding. Movistar, I don't think they've got anybody in the front row. This is Cataldo, Ganna now riding. So there's a big possibility with the firepower here they could get back, but I just fear for this group here.
So GC watch, Yates, Verhoeven, Pozzovivo at a minute. The group we just saw, Group 2, Fulsang, Bilbao, Micah at around 15 to 20 seconds. And in the front group, the winners in the GC at the moment, the pink jersey Almeida, the Dutchman Kruiswijk, his compatriot Kelderman, and the Shark, the Italian, Vincenzo Nibali. 13 seconds though. Fulsang and company seem to be recovering. Yates and this group we're seeing on the screen is back to 45 seconds. What a fascinating start to the day. Winner of the stage the other day, and look at Pozzovivo here. He's coming through and doing his turn, riding for his own Giro d'Italia future after such a good start on home roads here. Let's not forget, for the first, what is it, 50 to 60 kilometers, he's still in Basilicata. Wow.
You just see Thomas again went to the front there, and Pernsteiner for Barry and McLaren couldn't even come past them. So, you know, that's a big difference from a powerhouse to, you know, a small kind of mountain goat. But yeah, 46 seconds isn't a lot, but you can only think that, you know, the amount of energy these riders, because there's no place to hide. The amount of energy they're using at the moment, you know, everybody will say after today's stage, you don't need any mountains, but that was a tough stage.
The fact they're coming through town here, does that help those chasing on to get on now because it's a little bit more protected?
A little bit more, yeah, but you know, if you've got the stronger riders at the front, then they should be maintaining, if not pushing out the advantage. So everybody gets a little bit of help from the shelter of the buildings here.
That first group is 30 riders strong, but there's a lot of leaders in there. Let's say between GC guys and sprinters, at least a third of the group is leaders. So in terms of working together and keeping working, I mean, this gap we're seeing coming down, are they still cooperating the same, do you think?
No, I don't think they're not. When you're in the front group, you're kind of happy. You're not committing 100%. If you're chasing, you're giving 100%, you know, the whole time. So I would think that these riders now are giving probably 90% of their energies to keep on going. They're happy. They're in the front group. It's the second group that they see the carrot in the front, and they will give 100%. So this may come back together, but the second group are putting a lot more energy into bringing their leader back, which when you go into the kind of second part of the stage today, where there are definite crosswinds, then they could pay for it later on as well. So yeah, it's nobody's giving 100% in this front group for the moment, and that's why the time gap is coming back to 10 seconds.
It's been a lightning fast first, not even hour of racing yet. We are 43 kilometers down. And there's the gap between the first two groups now, almost 10 seconds. They can almost see they've made it, but they're not quite in yet.
No, but the thing is, it's 10 seconds. We've seen this done. If you can remember the Tour when Sam Bennett almost made it across, it was only a matter of about 50, 100 meters. So if this information and if the cars are seeing this, then they might push out again as it gets a little bit more exposed in the exit to this town.
And we also know that even if it does come back together again, I mean, don't go away disappointed wherever you're watching and think, oh, that's it now. We have even more exposed roads in the final 50 kilometers today, and there's a bit more of a prize because you're closer to the finish. Now, it looks as though they are going to get back on, but they still have to make that final effort. 7 seconds. They get closer and closer and closer. But Brian, as you suspected, there's a bit of an effort going in at the front again.
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, a little bit more. The probably sports directors on the radio and saying, look, you know, they're tiring behind, they're closing the gap, they're putting a lot more effort into this than you. Just push it on a little bit for the next 5-10 kilometres. Just push a little bit harder, try and break that elastic. It's not a done deal whether this second group is going to get on or not.
A little bit more protected here between the olive groves as we go into Puglia. just see how flat and how exposed everything is just relatively. And it's going to become even more like that as we get towards the finish and the coastline today. Once we get past Taranto, it becomes even more exposed again. Well, we had the wind blowing in the correct direction across open terrain. All we needed was a team that wanted to force the issue. We have that in the shape of the Koenig Quickstep. They made a gap. They got 30 seconds. Those struggling behind, including Fuglsang, Bilbao and Majka, are almost back on. Winners of the day at the moment: Sagan, Viviani, Demar, Matthews, Gaviria in terms of the sprinters. For the GC, Nibali, Kelderman, Karlsvik and Almeida. But big losers in the third group at 51 seconds, Verhoeven, Yates and poor old Domenico Pozzovivo, who'd had the best start to a Giro d'Italia I can remember. And it looks as though the first two groups, Brian, are about to come together now.
Yeah, you can see it's kind of all strung out. It looks like Astana trying to pull Fuglsang across just this little last bit with Boaro, but it's still not over. It's still not the junction. Not. We've seen this so many times, and you know this second group have been given 100%. How much effort is the front group going to put into this to try and keep these riders off the back of the group? But it does look as if the Astana riders are just about to make the junction.
A little bit more of a gap opens up behind, so Fuglsang looks like he's back on. But Bilbao and Majka are still stuck in the group behind, and they're at about 5 to 6 seconds. Now Mosca, riding for Nibali, desperately tries to push it on again. This is exactly what Brian Smith was talking about 2 minutes ago. They're getting the call. They know they have to make it that little bit harder to put those adversaries behind. So Majka is stuck behind. I'm hearing that Bilbao might be on here.
Yeah, you can see that it's setting up now, so it's going to come back together. But you know, we're going to have a group about what 80 riders at the front, and I think who's going to push this on now? And this is an opportunity now for the Yates group, because the information will go back. The first two groups are together. They'll look around. Everybody's been trying hard the last 20-30 kilometres. Someone's taken a natural break, so we could see a lull in the action, and we could see Simon Yates' group coming back.
35 riders in the next group. There are around 70 riders here. I'm not sure it is slowing down yet. Elia Viviani rides. Elio Kessler's former teammate does the same. Here's the Maglia Rosa. And the Maglia Rosa at the moment, with all the rest of the GC guys in here, are gaining time. Harm Vanhoeven, currently down in 4th place, is losing almost a minute. Simon Yates, a little bit further down, 3 minutes 52. Could well be going further out and down the GC. He's in that group at almost a minute. And Domenico Pozzovivo, who started the day in 6th place overall. Well, if this group were to hold, he'd be going outside the top 10.
I think now that the riders in the front will see everybody, that Fuglsang's there, you know, some other riders are there. I'm not too sure they'll push on 100% now. This is a big opportunity, and I think the sports directors of Lotto Soudal will be saying it's now or never, boys. You have to close this gap down, because I think the front group will slow slightly.
Well, you could see the Ionan Sea in the background. They've got more of a tailwind here for this particular section. You can see with the way they're riding. But once we get to the coast, we turn around again and the wind changes direction, or rather, the riders change direction. The wind comes into the side. If you're looking at a map of Italy today, we're in the far southeast. We're on the heel of Italy, and we're going directly from west to east. Well, the wind is blowing off the Adriatic Sea, down from the Balkan states, and across that heel of Italy. So it's coming from the north right across the side of the riders for most of the afternoon. 94.5 kilometers to go. Fast and furious, and there is what you thought might happen, Brian. Just bunched up a little bit.
Yeah, when you look around, the two groups come together, there's a kind of automatic kind of slowing, and it is a bit more of a kind of tailwind as we head towards the coast now. And big opportunity for the Simon Yates Vanhoeven group to come back now, and I think they will. We've got just a point sprint coming up at just under 77 kilometres to go, and that's when we'll get to the coast at Taranto. So Yeah, I think looking around in the front group, everybody's made it. It's been frantic for the last kind of 20, 30 kilometres. Settle down a little bit. You've made it, but a big opportunity for the third group in the road to make it to the front.
Rowan Dennis, the only Ineos Grenadier in here now, alongside Ben Swift and Jonathan Narvaez. That's the front group, isn't it, with Ganna there, pardon me, as well. Arnaud Bimard. And Boado. He's had a busy start, hasn't he? A lot of work for Fuglsang to come back, and well, that's a big potential hiccup saved for Fuglsang for the moment, but it might not be over for the day. And that's going to be the issue later on when we get on the narrower roads as well, and exposed roads.
Yeah, this is an opportunity now to get to the cars, because some of the team cars are there. Get to the cars, get bottles, get gels, and when this is happening, you know, your team aren't pressing on. We're in a big wide roads. Everybody's just kind of rolling through. No real push. And this information will get back to the Yates group and Van Hoeke group, and I'm pretty sure within the next kind of 10 kilometres they'll have made it back to the front of the race. But the thing about cross wins and things like that is everybody's had to ride, and everybody's been forced into riding.
Simon Yates on your screen. 41 seconds. They're gaining time back. But until they're in that front group, there'll be no chance to relax. There'll be no chance to have an intake of breath, a drink and something to eat. This is panic stations. The front, they start the ride again, and you can just see because the wind is coming more from the side once more. This is Filippo Ganna. It's not a bad motor, is it, to have for those in the front? In fact, there'll be some of the GC guys who were in the front before, knowing that they're dropping Van Hoeke, Yates and Pozzovivo. They'll be happy they've got these big motors in the group now.
Do you know that if you missed out the first time, you don't want to miss out the second time, so you make a little bit more effort, and that's why Ganna's there. Any opportunity. Sometimes you only get one chance in cross wins and it could be over for the day. Sometimes you get a second chance, and a lot of these riders from the second group have had the second chance, and that's why they're coming to the front. We can see that Deconi Quickstep aren't really kind of pushing this one along. They're happy with the situation. They know what's to come later on, and they might be called into action later on. So that's why a lot of the riders are taking a little bit of time, getting their breath back, maybe getting a gel down them, maybe trying to get back to the car to get bottles, because when this is frantic like this, you don't have any opportunity at all to get any bottles. And if you started with 2 bottles and you've already ridden, what, about 50 kilometres, it's thirsty worth this.
Domenico Pozzovivo's worst nightmare. Well, the Bahrain car is just about to be signalled up to the front, because now that they have riders in that front group, they will need servicing, and that'll be welcome to Pello Bilbao and company. Again, after the really good start, doesn't want to throw it away. The front group at the Giro d'Italia now has more power. The first 2 separated groups have come back together, and we have around 70 riders here. Jakob Fuglsang has closed the gap alongside Pello Bilbao and Rafał Majka. They've joined Vincenzo Nibali, Steven Kruijswijk, Wilco Kelderman and Joao Almeida, the Maglia Rosa. Still missing out though, and the gap is growing again, Brian, to 51 seconds. Harm van Hoeke, Simon Yates, who can't really afford to lose any more time now, and Domenico Pozzovivo, who had the best start in years and was looking $1 million on his bike. And this is all the way back to them. It's exposed. The wind is blowing all day long from the north off the Adriatic Sea. We've left Basilicata, we're into Puglia. We next go to Taranto, then to Grottaglie, and then to Brindisi. This is a big day, Brian, and 89 of the fastest, most furious kilometres remain.
I was about to say there, it really depends on the firepower and the chase behind it. I noticed that there's a few more riders being sent back to the second group on the road. So this is the pink jersey group. So few riders been sent back, and it is about the firepower. But when you think Thomas de Gendt, Victor Kampenaerts is there, then they should be really kind of shutting this down. Look, initially when the two groups come together and you go into another kind of crosswind section, if you've missed out the first time, you don't want to miss out again. So there's a bit of nervousness. I think this will settle down a little bit, because there's a lot of riders that have been put under pressure, and I would give it until probably 80 kilometres to go, maybe until this sprint. It's now or never. Simon Yates and co have to get to the front of this race before the sprints, just done at 76.8 kilometres to go, otherwise it could be over.
Is that because there's a direction change again?
Yes, direction change. We go into the coast, into town, out the other side, and then another direction change, and more of a crosswind.
Pink jersey being brought up to the front here by Ilio Kessa. Taranto is just up the road.
See, now we've got a little bit of control. You can see Kessa came up with the pink jersey, and Deconic Quick-Step will settle this one down a little bit. They've not... You have to calculate Van Hoeke, Yates, Pozzovivo, who are the big dangers there to Almeida, or you keep on riding. And you know, that's the conversation that Kajsa and Tony Martin is having at the moment. A lot of the kind of main GC contenders that are in this front group, so it's what's benefit you can get from riding on the front. That's the thing. If you think that Van Hoeke, Yates and Pozzovivo are a big threat, then you ride. If you think that by riding you're using up a lot of the energy of the team to benefit just kind of three riders, then you stop. The fact that they're sending cars forward means that the gap will foreshorten, which will help this second group. You can see they're tiring. You can see there's only 10 riders riding, the rest are just kind of hanging on. If you want back, now's the time to do it, because the front of the race is slowed down, and the sports directors will be able to see this and encourage all of these riders to give it one last big effort to make it back to the front.
Howson, Affini in this group riding. This is De Gendt. He's already used a lot of gasoline already, hasn't he? Trying to get in the breakaway. He did get in the breakaway. It's easy to forget we had a breakaway for 20 kilometres.
He only knows one way.
The in the background. And it's exposed to it, isn't it? All these big wide roads. Well, listen to that. 51.5 kilometres per hour over the first hour. 51.5 kilometres an hour this stage has been ridden at so far. A little bit more control here as the wind is more behind for the minute. You can see that flag actually right over the bridge, and you can see how strongly it's being blown. We're talking 20 to 25 kilometres per hour, I think, today, aren't we, Brian?
Yeah, I think it gets up towards the end. So I looked at it, it gets up to almost 30 kilometres an hour. So it's yeah. If you think the start was hard, the finish looks as if it could be even harder.
And across the road, this is back in the panicked second group. They've managed to chop 10 seconds off. You can see the man in the white jersey there, Harm van Hoeke, fighting for his future in the top 5 of the Giro d'Italia. He sits at 59 seconds after 6 stages so far. Of course, they're labelling the Simon Yates group, this group, and it's understandable given that Yates almost won the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago. But Domenico Pozzovivo is in here as well. And those of you maybe looking for Pello Bilbao from Bahrain McLaren. I know there are 3 Bahrain McLaren jerseys at the back here, but Bilbao is now in the front group. So first and second in the general classification are there without any problem. Third in the GC, Wilco Kelderman there too. We mentioned fourth, Van Hoeke in this group now at 38 seconds. As Brian said, they need to get in what, the next 10 Ks, or less, 9 Ks away, before they change direction again after the intermediate sprint. 6th on GC Pozzovivo, down in the second group. Apart from that, I think the rest of the top 10 are surviving. One man ready to move up into the top 10, I think, is Fausto Masnada. He's in the front group. James Knox is there as well, as Brian already mentioned. The Koenig Quickstep's team classification looking better and better. Hans going up in this group, so there is some servicing going on, and this is going to hinder the front group's progress, but of course it's going to help this group, isn't it?
This is a massive help as we start to head into town, and as we say, this is a big opportunity now. Shut this gap down. Matt Holmes just come to the front there. A lot of riders on the last legs. You can see gaps starting to open. John Dibben there been sent back to help out as well. So everybody has to ride. Even if you notice Benedetti for Bora Hansgrohe sitting the fourth wheel, he's contributing because he knows that his team are up the road. He doesn't have to ride because he's got his GC riders. He's got Pere Sagan there. He rides because he's got a job to do. He might have a job to do later on. The more numbers you've got in the front group, the better it is. But then again, you help the other GC riders. So teams will be thinking, well, do I sit back? Do I contribute? What's my job? And it looks as if Bora and Benedetti has been told that he's got a job to do later on, and you know, he has to contribute and make it back up.
I'm just wondering, I haven't seen Patrick Conrad. I'm just wondering if he's in this group. There you go, because that would, to me, Brian, you just, you know, you laid out the situation as far as Bora Hansgrohe are concerned, and if you're sitting in the car, surely you wouldn't think, for one domestique, you know, you're gaining, for Rafael Majka, you're gaining time on for Hooker, Yates, Pozzovivo. Why would you ride? But Patrick Conrad sits just inside the top 10, actually. So he missing is a big problem. And Patrick Conrad being up there with Majka helps Majka, doesn't it? Because it's another tactical little pawn to play. And, well, this is interesting. This is very interesting. 18 seconds now. We've seen the panic and the frenetic riding behind. The Koenig Quickstep have knocked it off for now. 18 seconds. They're all across the road. Sagan radios in, maybe to give the message back. And this could be coming back together very quickly, just before the moment they had to get back in, before that wind blows again, right before the intermediate sprint.
But that's what you have to look at. I would say Majka would be their GC rider, Sagan sprinter. So with two riders in there, why would you ride? Why would Benedetti ride with Conrad? Because it's up to others. Majka's gaining on Van Hooker, Yates and Pozzovivo, but you have to weigh this up, and a lot of teams can tend to sit back a lot of times in these situations. So, you know, hats off to Bora. They know the numbers game. They know it makes sense to have Conrad back at the front of the race.
A moment of sheer relief on the Giro d'Italia. Not yet halfway into the stage, and for some, the GC could have had a huge body blow struck. But everyone back in who was panicking, but all the fun could be about to start again. And breathe. 82 k's to go. Just 6 kilometers away from everybody having a direction change and the wind coming right from the side once more. Van Hooker, Yates, Pozzovivo are safe for now.
And Simon Palou starts the attack again.
Already in the breakaway once today. And do we just start again now, Brian? Is this what it is? Is this like the stage start with 82 k's to go?
Yeah, rewind to the start. First attacker, and Palou, he was a passenger in the group. He was in the breakaway, and then he was a passenger in the group, rode well, and decides this is another opportunity. But I think they'll see him down the road, because once we come into town here, we have the point sprints, and then we go out the other side. Then I think the crosswinds will happen yet again.
Simon Palou and Androni Giocattoli, they never miss a breakaway. And whenever one's gone in this Giro so far, they haven't missed one. Now, here comes the second attack.
No, that's the first attack.
That was the moment he went.
You're getting carried away.
I am. Come on, let's have more. Here he is. Simon Palou, Swiss rider, I think I've said already in the Giro d'Italia. Now we get the second attack, and you could have guessed which team it would have been. And let's see which rider it is. It is the number 213, and guess who it is, Brian?
Yeah, I said it.
Marco Frapporti.
No surprise.
So
no,
two of the original four-man breakaway are out there again.
Yeah, always need this Thomas again and Czerny, and we start all over again.
We could have started 60 k's down the road. It's the same situation 60 k's later. A few more thinking about what to do here. We're hearing that there's another group of 60 remaining riders at a minute or two. None of the favourites involved. One of the favourites has saved the day so far, Simon Yates. Now, it's going to open up that interminable discussion about Simon Yates. Of course, none of us are Simon Yates, so I'm sure he has his own response in that he's more comfortable riding at the back. But on a day like today, if you ride at the back, you're going to be caught out, aren't you?
I think everybody knows that you can't ride at the back, and Matt White would have told him you can't. It's one of these things where...
But Matt White can't do the riding for him, I guess. That's the issue, isn't it?
Yeah, you learn the hard way, and we keep on saying that you have to ride on the front, and, you know, why aren't you on the front? And it's just you're either able to do it or not. Same with sprinting, same with climbing. You know, riders have certain gifts at certain disciplines of our sport, and you know, we say all the time about the lowlanders, the Dutch, the Belgians are always, you know, the riders from north of North France. They're all very good at doing it, but James Knox was there, so it's a case of being in the right place at the right time and having the experience of. I would think that Kaiser, James Knox, just follow him, just follow me, stay around me, and you know, you'll be fine, and that's what you have to do.
Into Taranto, you talked about the lowlanders being good in the wind. Netherlands riders and those from Flanders are former stage winners in Taranto. Piet van Est in 1961 from the Netherlands won a stage here. And Albert van Vlierbergen in 1967 also took victory for Belgium. The last winner we had when we had a stage finish here, big sprinter, the Lion King himself, Mario Cipollini, 23 years ago. And what a spectacular view it is in Taranto. Guided by the Spartans, as you can see. Back in the ages of empires and the likes of the Venetians and Romans, Ottomans ruling this area, the Mediterranean and most of the world, these ports were hugely important. It does have an Istanbul type feel to it when you look at it from the air there, with the different looks over the different side, the stretches of water and ports in the middle. Not quite a bridge over two continents though.
There's a little bit of interest coming up in just over a kilometre's time, where we have the points sprints. Sagan and Demar will be battling that one out.
Yep, 12 points for the first over the line. I think it goes down to 8 after that. There we go. 6 points will be available. So 12 and 8 taken by these two, if they keep the 7-second gap. And then 6 points in the next. Now, there's a bit of a difference now, isn't there, in the Maglia Ciclamino? 39 points separate Arnaud Demar and Peter Sagan. Frapporti on 20 in this classification already.
You can think if Demar beats Sagan in this sprint and then in the intermediate sprinting at the finish, then it's going to be you know, a big contest for Sagan to gain as many points back, because it's not like the Tour de France where there's kind of bigger points in the intermediates.
Yeah, only 12 points here at the first intermediate and no points in the second intermediate. Makes it much more about the finishes, doesn't it, in the Giro d'Italia than at the Tour. This is Simon Poulot, who's going to take the maximum points. 12 points to Poulot, 8 points going to Frapporti. Frapporti moving up to 28 points now. Oh, we've had a crash behind. We've had a crash behind. We knew that it was going to be nervous all day. And we can see, I think, problems for Kelderman. There is Van Hooker. Oh, already caught out, and he's involved in the crash here.
Fuglsang.
Fuglsang. He's just been taken back to the peloton at the moment, Fuglsang. This is how it happened, Brian.
Yeah, it was about a third of the way down, just a touch of wheels, and you know, this happened. That's just hardness setting in as well. It was just a third of the way down the peloton, and it causes a reaction towards the back.
Well, the rider's being caught out, having to chase on, but at least not going down. But I know that there was an issue for 3 Sunweb riders. You can see Van Hooker caught out in the white jersey there, having to adjust mechanically to make sure everything was all right. He got help straight away from Thomas Agent, to be fair. Experienced head, went straight to him. And this is the chase back on. He has John Dibben in front of him, wearing number 123. And at the front, Harm Van Hooker has, guess who? Thomas Agent, motoring him back to the bunch. Not a good time, though, given what's going to happen up ahead again once we're into the wind, you imagine.
No, just we should be looking at this sprint, and Fuglsang being helped by the Lotto Soudal car, which makes a big difference, because if the Lotto Soudal guys had been behind the car, they might have got a fine. So yeah, the Lotto Soudal car helping Fuglsang, and of course helping their own riders as well.
185 in there for Sunweb. Is Hindley going fairly well in the general classification as well, winner of the Herald Sun Tour this year. At the front, things calm down.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll get a replay of the sprint, because of the crash there, we didn't get anything of that sprint.
UAE Emirates riders up the front, Biel, which suggests that Gaviria wasn't too far away. This is what's happening up the road, and we've lost all sort of control of time gaps and things like that. We will endeavour to get it back. Here we go. Elia Viviani winning that sprint ahead of Arnaud Demar. We get the results before we've even seen it. So Demar picking up 1 more point on Sagan. That means now it's a 40-point lead for Arnaud Demar over Peter Sagan. Viviani showing a bit of form. That's good news going forward, isn't it?
I think that's a little bit of a confidence booster more than anything, because you know, he's so far behind in that competition. I know there's a long way to go, but I think going for that sprint, I think he's been told, go for this sprint, a little bit of confidence booster. And I know that maybe the other riders are not going full gas, but you know, that'll give him confidence going in. And the fact that he made the front group as well will give him confidence going into this final.
21 seconds for Simon Poulot and Marco Frapporti. Well, things start to calm down a little behind. Question is, for how long? That was the crash. It was a Cofidis rider, I think, going down. But a Cofidis rider took the biggest points in the sprint in Elia Viviani, with 6 there after the breakaway. Off for a quick break. Don't go away. For those of you watching on our digital platforms, able to watch uninterrupted. Thanks for your company. You can also see the breakaway this evening, who has a special guest tonight. Connor Dunn will be along to join Brian, Dan and Orla. Remember to watch that on your GCN Race Pass or the Eurosport player.
Is the studio big enough for him? Might have to move the cameras back a little bit.
Budge up on the sofa.
Yeah, I might have to sit upright as well.
There's not that much of a difference, is there? Or
He's
do you
a
look
tall
like
lad.
a borrower compared to Connor?
He's a tall lad.
Look forward to hearing from him later on. So, Van Hooker's back. Fuglsang is back. Second scare of the day for both of them. Certainly a stressful day mentally, this as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everybody says that all the Grand Tours, the first week, are always so stressful, and you know, add in the wins, it just makes it even more stressful. But it's exactly the same for everybody, and everybody knew when they woke up this morning what was coming. You know, it's not a surprise to anybody. None of the teams, they knew what was coming, but still we get this exciting racing, and you know, riders not in the right position, and of course not everybody can be at the front. You know, I'm surprised that, you know, a few riders that have been missed out, but when it started, I couldn't believe how far back Simon Yates was.
if you're a sports director here, after those initial errors, what is the message when we come out of town in Taranto? Because they know the wind's going to blow again. You can just look. Just look at how exposed everything is. There's no hill in sight here. As soon as they leave town, it's going to be coming from the side.
Same message as you do in the team meeting. Exactly the same. Stay at the front and watch these. There'll be riders that they'll say kind of follow. One of them being Elio Kausa. When was the last time Elio Kausa kind of messed up in cross wins? It's not that often. He's probably one of the instigators. So just watch these riders, stay towards the front, just go on Duconi Quickstep. Of course, everybody will be told the same thing, but you switch off, then you're in the wrong part of the bunch when the crosswind happens. So it'll be the same message as they got this morning. Ride towards the front, make sure the GC contender, the sprinter is near the front, and don't, it's all about, everybody thinks that cycling, it's all about, the physical side of things, but the mental side, and that's where the sports director will come in.
In any sport, isn't it?
Yeah. And more sports than others, mental torture. I think of tennis when I think of that, because you're in the centre court and you get you're on your own for 4 hours. You're not getting any outside help, but at least you're getting a little bit of help here from the sports director to keep on G'ing up the riders.
It's bubbling up again on stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia. We left Matera and all of its stunning architecture and ancient history. What is it now? 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers ago. We have 71 kilometers to the finish in Brindisi. The riders are just leaving the town of Taranto. We've had an intermediate sprint. 2 riders have gone up the road again, but they only have 21 seconds. The big problem today is the wind. We've had splits in it already. Van Hooker, Yates, Pozzovivo caught out. To a lesser extent, we had Bilbao, Fulsang as well, alongside Rafael Majka and Patrick Conrad. But it's all back together now, bar around 60 riders who are further off the back. Nobody in terms of the favourites are there. Now we're looking for it all to start again, though, and it's as if you do an extra sketch, start the stage again, but this time riders will not want to make the same mistake.
It's a little bit easier because you've got 60 riders less. Just a little bit easier because if you get 60 more riders in the mix, it's a little bit more difficult to stay near the front. But like we saw earlier, as soon as it goes into the crosswinds, it'll split into 3 or 4 groups, and you want to be in that front group, so you can't switch off.
We just saw the intermediate sprint with that chaos of the crash in town in Taranto. A second problem of the day for Harm van Hooker and Jakob Fulsang. They both got back on again. But whilst we saw that crash, there was an intermediate sprint, and there was a bit of a confidence boost for the man we're going to hear from now. Let's hear from Elia Viviani from Cofidis, who's yet to still win for his new team.
Siamo qui adesso
Well, we're here with Elia Viviani. Yesterday you took the right decision. You chose not to do the sprint and save energy for today.
Sì, è ovvio che questo sono scelte tattiche che poi vedremo se pagano o no, però sono delle occasioni che è giusto farle ed è giusto provare a fare così. Oggi è totalmente piatta, ci sarà del vento,
today it's completely flat and it's going to be windy, there'll be a few attacks I think as well. So we're all going to be ready for it and we'll enjoy it. Today it could be a good opportunity, and that's the reason why I wanted to focus on today rather than yesterday. You usually put a lot of pressure on your own shoulders and it makes you feel even stronger. Can you feel it already?
Assolutamente sì, tanto che non vinco, quindi è ovvio
so much pressure that I can't win.
Something
in me's not quite going in the right direction. Of course, champions are made this way, to react this way. Of course, I'm missing putting my arms in the air. It should be a motivation really and not an issue. If you start feeling the pressure, have you figured out what's wrong?
era come l'anno scorso e no...
sicuramente
well, it's a weird season maybe. I think I missed a few races. I'm trying to follow something that's not coming and going after it, so it makes it even more complicated again. The truth is that I'm also missing something at the finish, and we need to adjust maybe how the lead-out chain works, but there's something not quite there in the legs yet. I hope to find it and get it back today. He hopes to get it back today. Nice and honest there, actually, I would say, from Elia Viviani. In the meantime, we saw a little bit of an acceleration from the front, and we're also seeing riders get back on again.
Yeah, Zakarin is the, I think, one of the main riders that was at the back of this race. A lot of riders happy to see the front, so looks like we have got a complete peloton now. Everybody back in the race, and just in time for potential, you know, split in the wins again.
Just in time for the party to start once more. So Marco Fraporti out in front. Simon Poulot is alongside him. The last time check we had was 20 seconds. They're on the attack because they have to be. They're on the attack because they are the two most aggressive teams in the race. But there's so much will for things to happen behind. Coming up, we've got our only little bit of climbing, if you can call it climbing, in the race. It's maybe 15 kilometers. We've got the odd uphill road as we down and have a look at the church of San Domenico Maggiore in Taranto. And CCC at the front. We haven't seen much of this, have we? They haven't brought their best team here, and we know that it's not the easiest time, is it, for CCC riders at the moment. We really sincerely hope that everybody there can either stay with the team for next year that is being transferred to Circus 1T, or of course get a job somewhere else, and that goes for the whole staff, not just the riders as well. We know it's not easy, but they haven't brought their strongest team here, given the fact that the classics are going to be on, or at least some of the classics, now that we've unfortunately learned of the cancellation of Paris-Roubaix. There's also the Vuelta a España, so stronger riders elsewhere, but we've seen them in the odd breakaway, and apart from Ilno Zakarin, they've been pretty absent, haven't they, Brian?
Yeah, they have, and you know, they're not difficult to see in the orange jerseys, but yeah, when Zakarin can't go downhill, can't ride and cross winds, it's difficult to look after someone like that. You know, we're talking about team meetings and sports directors telling riders not to ride on the back, and yet again Simon Yates does it again. Right, don't ride down the back.
I mean, it's not for me as somebody really does, you know, in terms of professional bike race, I don't know what I'm talking about. I've never been there. I'm asking you here, Brian. There must be a reason why he's down there. This isn't digging into Simon Yates or having a go at him. There's obviously a reason why he feels more comfortable, and you know, Simon Yates is an intelligent guy. He's not stupid. He will have weighed this up. He will know exactly that people ask this question, but of course, as analysts of the race, you know, it's our job to ask those questions. I'm asking you, Brian, once more, why? There must be a reason he wants to ride at the back. Why will it be?
There's two type of riders. Riders that like to just ease in the back and try and move up at the right time, and that's a gamble. I tended to be, you know, one of those riders more so than none. And then you get...
It's probably worth saying it's a gamble on days like today, not always. You know, if you're on a stage that...
And a day like today...
You don't see often a lot happening, but a day like today, you'd think, well, maybe I'm just going to change my tactic today.
Yes.
And I know it's very easy, isn't it, to say you've got to be at the front, because only 10 riders at a time can be at the front. And I know it's difficult. Dan yesterday explained the washing machine effect, didn't he? But you surely got to make those efforts if you're protecting GC.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, two riders, a lot of riders just want to swan around the back, and I was kind of one of them, and try and use my kind of sense to move up at the right time. And then there's riders that constantly battle up the front, want to be in the top 20, and it's kind of nervous day the whole day for them. But there's days like today when you know you cannot be a rider down the back. You have to ride on the front, and that's what I don't get about some of the riders, that they've had, you know, they've been taught a lesson earlier on. They've got a second chance at it. Just get the team up towards the front and get them riding together with the Koni Quickstep. But You know, you can see that Pozzovivo, NTT have learned. They're right up there on, you know, Pozzovivo in the second row. Benedetti, who missed out, he's straight up there doing his work. Of course, Duconi Quickstep with Elio Kaiser, he's doing his work. But that's what NTT are doing is what Mitchelton Scott should be doing. And we look at the front of the peloton and spot where Mitchelton Scott are at the moment.
Not at the front. And again, the difference, you know, you can talk about, you know, to the cows come home, all about how you were, as a rider, you were at the back, but you weren't going for GC in the Giro d'Italia. Simon Yates is, and that's the big difference here, isn't it?
I was going for GC in the Giro d'Italia. I just came up about 100 places short.
No, again, it would be interesting to hear from him on that. And again, in his defence, he's an intelligent guy, Simon. He's a guy who obviously knows what he's doing, much more than we do sitting here watching. But when you're continually caught out on those moments and you continue to make the same mistakes, you have to ask the question why. 7 seconds here. Not really going anywhere, are they, Puro and Fraporti today?
No, they've got tired legs. You see the wind is still blowing a little bit. It's very strong. And once we head out of town, again it goes into the crosswinds, and it's the same teams, although Barry and McLaren have decided to come up. But you can see, you know, one rider there from Mitchelton Scott. It's same teams just riding. All of a sudden, look, I've ridden so many races that you're kind of riding near the front, and in a space of 2 minutes or less, it could be all over. Just bang into crosswinds, split to pieces, game over. And it's as simple as that. If the right riders are in front, you're not, then that's where the difficulties lie.
As I said, the only little bit of climbing on today's stage comes up for the next 10 to 15 kilometres. Once we are inside the final 50 kilometres and through the town of Grottaglie, that is when we get a continual exposed bit of road heading in the same direction all the way to our finished town of Brindisi.
Just watching these staff members, it's always difficult when you get the fans outside the roads. This isn't the official feed zone, or is it?
There is no big official feed zone today because it's a shorter stage. It's 143 Ks.
And this is the problem you've got, where they choose where to feed. You get fans in the way trying to see the race. They're trying to get bottles up. It's been a very nervous stage already. There'll be a lot of thirsty riders that have, you know, sweated a lot already. So yeah, that's the difficulties. But in the meantime, Pirlo, Fraporti battling out. We talked about the competitions yesterday. Well, you know, for the second time today, they're gaining in the breakaway competition.
They're not far behind, Marco. Mechanical problem for one of the riders from CCC. Probably not the worst place for that to happen. Time for the rider affected from CCC to get back in. This town, by the way, is San Giorgio Ionico. It's one of the best appearances of crowds that we've had across this Giro d'Italia so far. They really have turned out in their numbers, and all adhering to the new rules as well. Face masks on for everybody. Well played. So only a few kilometres up the road from San Giorgio, we get to Grottaglie, named after the caves. And there's that Italian flag, and the wind's still blowing, even in these more built-up areas. You can hear it on the microphones as well. And it carries on right into town, actually, in Brindisi. I've just seen a few images of the finish line too.
I'm just looking at the wind direction now. Until the next sprint, it's more of a kind of head crosswinds until we get there. So that comes at 51.5. So for the next kind of 10 kilometres, as we see some riders starting to stop for a natural, it's I wouldn't, you know, this is an opportunity to just relax a little bit. As we get to this second sprint of the day, then, you know, that's where you have to be at the front.
This is the calm before the storm. The warm-up before the main match. And it is just after we leave, as we were saying, Grottaglie, the next town. Head past the airport before. Taranto and Grottaglie shares an airport. That's the next landmark in around 5 kilometres time. And when we leave Grottaglie, we change province from Taranto into Brindisi. We'll go to Francavilla, to Mesagne, not far from Sant'Elia on the Via Appia, and then heading into Brindisi itself. Androni alongside Vini Zabou, lighting up the race and attacking things as they do every day. Welcome back. Almeida and Nibali. Maglia Rosa, talking to the winner of the Maglia Rosa on a couple of occasions. Planning their next attack. Crosswinds start to affect things, we think, again in around 10 kilometres time. Heading between the towns of Taranto. We've just gone through San Giorgio Ionico, and we're now heading to Grottaglie. When we get to Grottaglie, a town named after local caves, we'll have the second intermediate sprint of the day. 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds available there. The last time we had bonus seconds involved and we didn't have a breakaway away, Joao Almeida went out to take the seconds. But of course he was on the same time then as Jonathan Caicedo. Now he has a 48-second lead. 2 of the bonus seconds could well be taken, a 3 and 2, by the 2 men in what we have to describe as a breakaway, but they're just hanging off the front at the moment. That's Pullo and Fraporti. And let's be honest, they know that as much as we do. Does anybody go for these time bonuses?
Of the GC riders, I don't think they would, you know, waste their efforts. I don't think there's too much to gain. 3, 2 and 1 seconds for them. You know, we see that the 2 riders in front aren't gaining that much, purely because that you know, there's still that nervousness of positioning at the front. So the riders are trying to stay at the front of the main peloton, and you know, that's forcing a bit of pace in the peloton, which means that they have to try somewhat harder to get a gap, and they're not getting that gap. They need a Thomas de Gent with them, I think.
He's not falling for that trick again. Been up the road once and got chased down straight away. This is Peter Sagan on his way back to the bunch. He made the first split as you'd have expected him to do.
You can see he's an experienced rider. He chose to have a natural break into this kind of part of the stage where it's a bit more of a head crosswinds. And you know, just to explain a little bit about crosswinds for those of you that really kind of don't know it. And if it's a headwind, then everybody sits behind the riders in front, and they can get some good drafting effect. But if the wind is coming from the left or the right, then the best shelter is, if it's coming from the left, you shelter pretty much beside, halfway down the bike of the rider in front of you. And that means that you fan across the roads. And then the riders that are further back in the peloton, it's about positioning then. They're all getting no shelter in the gutter, so what they'll do is they'll move across to the left-hand side, forcing an echelon where they are sheltering everybody towards your right. And it will happen all the way back the peloton, and then you can think of a peloton of about 160 riders. When the crosswinds happen and the riders at the front go fast, the splits in the peloton, the other groups are just going as fast. It's just that it kind of breaks up the peloton.
We're expecting, whatever happens with the wind, some sort of big bunch sprint today. We're expecting the big sprinters at least to be involved. Fernando Gaviria has yet to be involved. Here he is. Fernando Gaviria, finally, today could be your day. Yeah, it's a tough week, eh? But today's an important day for the sprinters, so we're going to try and take this opportunity. The last few kilometres are quite different compared to the others. Yeah, it's a totally flat day. It's quite an easy stage, and the only opponent could be the wind. We'll control the stage all day, and we're going to have to be cautious. And the team's going to work for you today? Yeah, they told us all the teams at my disposal today, so we're going to do our best. Have you studied the last few kilometres? Yeah, I've seen exactly how the turns and the curves look. There are some quite sharp turns, but I think we should take them on in the best way, and we need to be in the best position to do a good sprint. Gaviria knows what's coming, or at least that's the message. Away from the sprinting at the moment, we look at the best young rider standing, and that is being led by João Almeida. 59 seconds on Harm Verhoeven, who's looking after that white jersey for him. Well, and under the shade for the sun, but still exposed to the wind here. The nerves are still there. Trek Segafredo try to come to the front. And we've got riders coming back just before they expect this fun to start. Going past that airport, we said, that was in between the two towns there, between Taranto and Grottaglie. It's time for a stretch out for Marco Fraporti, as they're brought back.
What were we
at the
doing
front,
there?
friends at the back.
What were we trying to achieve?
So it's all gone very nervous, as we expected it to be. There's a bit more room for everybody to be at the front now. And look, just as they move up, you just saw that the Astana riders had to increase the pace quickly. But Brian, suddenly the bonus seconds have come back into contention. 3, 2 and 1 all available again.
Yeah, I still think it's a case of wanting to be near the front. That picture just showed you that in a big wide open road, that everybody was wanted to be at the front row, because when they go into the crosswinds and the riders at the front start pushing hard, then the further back in the peloton, that's where it determines what group you end up in. So, but I can't see really anybody taking any real advantage of this bonus sprint of 3, 2 and 1 now.
And it's coming up in 4 kilometres time in Grottaglie. We've got to go ever so slightly uphill before we get there as well. If you went round the left there, you've just lost 20 positions. 55 kilometers to go. Just inside 4 kilometers till we get to Grottaglie and the next intermediate sprint. Pello Bilbao being looked after at the front this time. Dario Cataldo's making sure he's around. That is Bernard, the Frenchman with the beard, riding for the Italian Nibali. And on the left-hand side, Sunweb are looking after Wilco Kelderman. Astana, even though they're the team with the weakest numbers in the race, just 6 riders have all of their number, trying to protect Jakob Fuglsang. The Koenig Quickstep have done the best job out of anybody today. They forced the issue, and Joao Almeida's never ever been far from the front.
He hasn't. He's doing really well. Just noticing this group coming back. Looks like 3 riders from Mitchelton Scott. Another like 2 or 3 riders from Cofidis. Couple from Androni. 1 rider from Groupama as well.
Also, let's not forget as well that riders have been dropping back to the car there during that little period. Plus, Brian, we had the crash, didn't we, in that town where a Cofidis rider did go down. Road narrows here, and they're approaching the intermediate sprint. Just before the intermediate sprint, there's an opportunity for Boaro to take some food. Not necessarily just for him. It's his job to keep his leader fed and watered, isn't it, here? Because, as you can see, he takes another musette, and it's a chance for Fuglsang, the leader, to be kept fed and watered and ready for any action. And also not having to make the effort to go and get the thing. Or risk crashing.
Always a danger there, but Astana choosing to do it at that point, and Boaro taking 2 feedbacks there, and they'll have 2 bottles and some food.
Under the bridge here, and you can just see the white sign hidden behind that pink banner to suggest that we are officially just going into the town of Grottaglie. Remember, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds. Not the most important point at this stage of the Giro d'Italia, given that the gaps are a little bigger now, and it's not going to cause somebody to change the jersey or not. But we've got crosswinds just after that, and Lotto Soudal are now put the pace on. The pace is picked up going into this point. You can see the white jerseys on the left as we look at it, Sunweb there. Nibali being kept safe through the middle, as there are 2 Ks to get on the right. It's Groupama FDJ, and let's not forget, it's not just about GC rides. I know we're focusing on that at the minute because it could be so important in the course of the 3 weeks, but we should be having a sprint stage at the end today, and the likes of Dimar don't want to miss out.
Don't want to miss out, exactly, and you know, want to try and kind of save the legs as much as possible in a very tricky stage. We were saying earlier on that when it goes into the crosswinds, you have to do your turn at the front, so a lot of the times the sprinters will be told that they really have to you know, keep out the wind, but you can't keep out the wind today. You have to do your turn at the front and keep yourself at the front.
Now, according to my map, it goes uphill from here to the sprint. And here's confirmation of that for the final kilometre uphill. 1.3 Ks to the point. Remember, this isn't a sprint where you can get involved for the Maglia Ciclamino, so don't expect the likes of Sagan and what have you, unless they're as confused by the rules as many others watching on, given that it is still down as an intermediate sprint and not a bonus. But there should be no points for the Maglia Ciclamino here. This is all about being in the right place when we turn out of town, I imagine, Brian.
Should be. Just looking at Fuglsang, if you know, he's interested in taking 3
seconds more than most, doesn't he?
Yeah, I would think so.
No, look behind. It looks as though he might be, because you can see Boaro just keep looking behind there. He's through the centre in the turquoise jersey. Ben Swift on the left is the British champion for the Ineos Grenadiers, keeping his leader up there. You imagine that might be Narvaez.
Oh, crash there.
And a problem out of picture, and it's involving Groupama FDJ. Other riders have been caught out behind, and just another example of why you need to be at the very front. Unaffected here, though. Let's have a look at it, Brian.
Yeah, just moving up. Just one rider looked around.
Jersey. Oh, the pink jersey having to put his foot on the ground.
Yeah, just a case of looking behind you. You saw that a lot of riders are looking around to see where their teammates are, and just one of the Groupama riders just touching his teammate's wheel, and all of a sudden
suddenly, though, the pink jersey's second wheel. I don't know if it was planned to be like this, but suddenly he's second wheel, and we're approaching that intermediate sprint. Nibali's third wheel through the centre. Fulsang is on the left-hand side as we get to it as well. Kelderman is in a train of riders for that intermediate sprint too. Just keep your eye on Joao Almeida here. 51.7 kilometres to go as another De Koning Quick-Step rider makes it to the front. Remember, 3, 2 and 1 bonus seconds just up the road here at the intermediate sprint. Is anybody going to bother? We might be about, or we definitely are about to find out. This is the view from the sprint point. Huge crowds, absolutely huge crowds down south in Puglia. This is Grottaglie. Movement on the left-hand side. Astana following, Brian.
Trying to move out the way, I think, Mosca to let Nibali through, but no real contention here.
No, nobody really interested. And they come through the intermediate sprint point. I don't think any of the leaders were on the front there to take the points.
No, they're just interested in what's happening in the other side of town. You see a lot of the strong riders, Jus van Emden on the right-hand side, looking after Steven Kruijswijk. So it's the same teams starting to push. They know when they exit the town, they'll go in a similar direction, or maybe more of a crosswind direction to they did earlier on. And it's just, who was it? Touched the wheel. You just see Ballerini was coming up, and he just moved to go onto the wheel of Ballerini, and all of a sudden you just see it again. No, that's further up as sprints. So it was Boaro, Ballerini, and a photo finish for the third place there, Rob.
There we go. Kamil Gradic taking it, apparently. I didn't see any orange jerseys in there.
It's a blanket finish.
Equipment's working.
A blanket finish.
Well, we're about to come out of Grottaglie where we might have some action. But it looks as though we're going to go and hear from Philippe Gilbert. He's been talking to Ola Shanawi. Time to go to the interview.
Philippe, you are, of course, the current champion of Paris-Roubaix. We knew already that you weren't going to be racing this year, but you were going to be joining the Eurosport family for the Hell of the North. What was your reaction this morning when you found out it was to be cancelled?
Yeah, it's a big disappointment because it's a big race. It's one of the most famous events in cycling. So to see this cancelling, it's bad news for cycling.
And you get to keep your title for longer as well, of course.
Exactly. So yeah, for myself, I was kind of disappointed, but also it was I cannot say that I was happy, but I know that now I will be able to start with #1 in my back and defend my title, because this year I was injured and not able to start. So yeah, it would have been a bit painful to be there. I mean, happy to comment with Eurosport, but also some sadness to not be able to start the race as a rider.
And you are still joining Eurosport, we have to say, for Gent-Wevelgem and the Ronde van Vlaanderen, the Tour of Flanders. How excited are you about those?
Yeah, it's great. I did 2 years ago the comments for France, Eurosport France, for the Worlds, and it was a nice experience. And yeah, today we had a good meeting to set up all the things I need on my computer, and now I'm ready. So we're gonna do some tests before, and I'm happy to do that because I think I have a a clear vision of the race and some experience to share with the people. So it's a different way to share it with the public.
Great to hear that Philippe Gilbert will be joining us on Eurosport to call the classics. Looking forward to that. Remember, Kent Wevelgem, you can see it this weekend, Sunday, 12:30 p.m. That's in the UK and Ireland, live on the Eurosport app. So we knew things were going to get interesting as soon as they went out of town there. And while we were watching that interview with Ola and Philippe, you could just see them fighting and starting to fight for positions. That's the Madonna del Carmine down in Grottaglie. First look, it's all about the dome, isn't it? Look at the tiles on there. Now then, Tony Martin out the back. At the front, it's getting pretty ferocious again, Brian.
Certainly is, and it's been like this for the last few kilometres. Everybody knows, come out of town and crosswinds, and that's why we saw no major competition for the 3, 2 and 1 second bonus sprint. It's all about the crosswinds today. Full concentration. You can see Rohan Dennis for Ineos. So Tony Martin just gets a rear wheel for his puncture. He needs to make it back because he's a big firepower for Jumbo-Visma. So they want him back as quickly as possible, but there's a lot of teams that have missed out the first time, now coming towards the front. UE, definitely there, big stage for them today with Gaviria, so full concentration for all the riders here at the front.
Into the province of Brindisi. Look how flat it is, and look at those windmills. Huge solar energy area, as well as wind. The sun is shining. That often happens, but it's the wind today. Really exposed. What a shot, just to show how exposed it is and what a danger this wind is going to pose. Already, they're being blown across the road. Today it's coming from the north, so from the right-hand side as we look at it now.
Just about to start, and we were criticising Mitchelton Scott by the looks of things. Simon Yates right up there towards the front, I think at the right time, because by the looks of things it could be starting any moment now.
Well, this already is Rodrigo Contreras, who's out the back. The man at the doctor's car at the moment, getting a little bit of treatment, is Eduardo Affini. That could explain, maybe, why they weren't involved early on, because he's one of the main guys for them in this sort of terrain.
He is. It looks as if he's fallen, of something's happened, because he's getting some spray to his right hand or wrist. So it looks as if he's, one of the casualties of today, and if he's got that, then he is really going to struggle all the way towards the finish now. But it's just starting to happen now. You can see the kind of bubble as people are starting to panic moving up. A bit of an echelon starting to happen. So yeah, the kind of swarm of the bees is happening. Everybody can sense that if a team or a few teams put the pressure on, this could be it all the way to the finish.
Fabro in the green there, Torres in the blue on the right. Oh, we've had a huge crash here, and this could be a big difference. Now, who's caught up in it? There are a lot of riders out behind. Oh my word, we knew the wind was a problem, but it's wheels touching, it's crashes, and the Giro d'Italia yet again, and this time for a different reason. All in the air. That's Ganna involved. There were riders from Trek Segafredo, Bahrain McLaren are rating. This is carnage, Brian.
It is, and the 45 kilometres to go, Banner, the slight squeeze, nobody wanted to give an inch, and this is what caused it. It's the slight squeeze
out there
as we get to that banner, because it intrudes onto the road. They squeezed in and nobody wanted to give an inch.
Welcome back, everybody, and this is the image we come back with. A crash right at the 45 kilometre to go banner, and lots of riders involved. I know that Harm van Hoeken was there once more. You've seen a lot of riders from Cofidis involved. There's Ganna in the blue jersey. 102 I just spotted there is Kylian Franchini. It's chaos at the Giro, and it was just starting to bubble up. The wind is blowing again. Oh, and it's still going on. This is a disaster, Brian.
Yeah, it is a disaster. It'll be interesting to see the front of the peloton, because with so many riders involved and so many teams involved, they may call some sort of kind of truce until everybody gets back on their bikes and maybe back. You can just see it. It's caused nobody giving an inch. These barriers just get pushed out a little bit, squeeze in the middle of the peloton, bang.
Pink jersey's okay. First look is that the pink jersey is okay. He was 2 wheels in front, I think, of where it happened. But it's about a quarter of the way down the bunch, isn't it? That's all. Bevilacqua, by the way, is the man in the green here.
Look at the barriers again, right? How many times are we going to see this, right? They should not be breaking. Plus, the situation we've got as well, you do not expect, right? How many meters is that? What, 20, 30 meters beforehand it starts to come in and just pinch the road a little bit. You know,
it's not gradual, is it? It just happens.
You don't get any warning. Everybody can see it coming, but they're concentrating. Nobody's giving an inch. Everybody's being told to move up, and all of a sudden, a metre at each side of the road is squeezing in because of the kilometres to go banner. But it does look as if they're not pushing on. They're sitting back at the front of the peloton, which will give a big opportunity for a lot of these riders to come back.
Well, Verhoeven was called out. That's what's under the bar tape for poor old people Ganna. Now, a quick look at the front. I saw the Maglia Rosa was there, Steven Kruijswijk was there, Simon Yates was there as well. Didn't look to be any big name casualties as we saw. Verhoeven behind. And this isn't good. He's been working really hard so far as Gebrselassie. And there are some real injuries there. And again, there's that barrier. It's going to be another discussion. Bennett was down, by the way, Sean Bennett on the left. As you were talking about the barrier in the first instance that had come away, the rider in that rather funky F kit was Sean Bennett. We heard that Verhoeven had been caught up. I know that the Agile Zerman was Aurélien Paré-Peintre. Filippo Ganna is here, chasing on as well for Jumbo-Visma.
Lawson Craddock here, looks one of the worst off.
This is Sean Bennett, actually.
Oh, sorry, Sean Bennett.
One of the 2 American riders in there. Oh, we're hearing 1 minute 24 to Ganna. I'm not sure if... well, he's not in this group, so yep, there are various groups getting back on.
I don't think they're pushing on in front. I think there's so many teams involved that you don't want to take advantage at all. So there'll be a bit of a lull in the action until most. Pozzovivo is in this group, so... Most of these riders will get back on, and then they'll commence racing. So a little bit of a truce.
Well, Pozzovivo is being brought straight back. And just before all that happened, I was about to say very good afternoon to Connor Dunn. He's joined us on commentary today. Connor, with all that excitement, I forgot about you, mate. I'm sorry. Welcome along.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be watching this absolutely fascinating stage so far. I thought it was going to be kind of a straightforward sprint day, but it's turning out to be something completely different.
What you've seen so far, we've seen obviously some of the GC guys being caught out. We've seen it all happen again. What's your general view of what you've seen to now? Because it has been pretty chaotic, and we've just had 100 kilometres, 40 Ks of crazy racing still to go, I guess.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute nightmare of a day if you're a GC rider, because it just looks so stressful. You can see it on the faces of everyone in the peloton. I think no one really knows when the crosswind's going to hit. They obviously know there's going to be more echelons today. If you look at the wind direction, they're in for some surprises, but I think you can just tell by the nervousness of the peloton. No one really knows when it's going to happen, and that's why you're seeing the crashes happening, because everyone's just on edge for the whole time.
Connor, just look at how quickly those barriers narrow. It's just something that Brian Smith's picked up, and I know and I know that people at home who maybe haven't been in it and have had their lives in danger like you have in the peloton, they might be a bit fed up of us talking about this, but again, an issue with barriers coming in. Do you agree with Brian that they were a little bit too maybe abrupt there in the way they had to move in together?
Yeah, I think it's just frustrating to see, to be honest, because I think when those barriers were placed on the road, the organisers were probably thinking this was going to be a straightforward sprint day. They weren't thinking that the peloton would be so nervous and there'd be crosswinds. And it's kind of unnecessary to have the barriers on the side of the road like that. I don't understand why the barriers can't be supported either side of the physical road barriers that are already there, because it just creates an obstacle for the peloton which doesn't need to be there. Obviously everyone's so nervous, so when you're coming towards those barriers, no one wants to give an inch. You're fighting already, it's just going to shorten the distance between yourself and the edge of the road, so it's going to cause a crash. Yeah.
Well, Pello Bilbao caught out again alongside Domenico Pozzovivo in a group chasing on. Second problem for them today, this time of a different nature. And Brian, I guess it's just proving the point all day long that we know it's stressful, we know it's difficult, we know you need teammates, but whatever happens, if you can be in those front 20 positions, you have much more of a chance of surviving whatever mishaps and problems that come along.
A bit of luck as well, because we see the kind of washing machine effect at the front of the peloton, and it's not easy to stay near the front. And it was only a few kilometres before that we mentioned that NTT had brought Pozzovivo right up towards the front, and learned his lesson, second chance, and was involved with that crash again. And what did we say right from the start? Who's at the front? Elio Kaiser. He's a rider in the crosswind, so if you can stay near him, you will stay out of trouble and you'll possibly find yourself in the front group. But we see Bilbao on the right-hand side there, so Bilbao is still there, so that's a good thing. But yeah, it's totally nervous, and I don't think anybody wants to take any real advantage for the next few kilometres. The fact that it was so big a crash and so many riders were involved, but very soon they'll start to get involved with the crosswinds as soon as we come out of this small town and it starts to open up a little bit more again.
This is that chasing group. They originally told us that Bilbao was there, but well spotted, Brian. He was on the right-hand side, just in front of Vincenzo Nibali, who we also saw in that front group. Chasing on here is Visconti. By the way, he had a scare yesterday. A bit of metal came up off the road and punctured a hole in his shoe. Could have been a lot worse had it been a little further up the shoe. CCC chasing on. There's Rumac in third wheel, the Croatian national champion.
Zakarin again on the right-hand side. It's just not happening for CSC today, and you got to remember, Rob, that already...
CSC? How many years have we gone back there?
CCC, yeah. I was talking about another...
We're going to be on a races back, but...
I was doing a little bit of retro beforehand. But yeah, it's, we had so hard a start that the riders to ride near the front, fatigue is starting to settle in, and it seems to be the same riders the whole time that are getting gapped or getting involved with crashes and being out of position.
This is Francavilla Fontana. Around 35,000 people live here. Good number of them out on the street. Away from the wind for the moment. Connor, in these sorts of situations, if you've been caught out, going through these towns, does it actually help that you can maybe get a chance to get out of the wind for a minute and try and chase back on, or does it not make much of a difference?
Yeah, going through the towns, you do have a bit of time to recover and get back on if you are out of the back. But the thing is, when you go through a town, you're sheltered from the wind. So you're kind of waiting for the point when you exit, you're back out onto open terrain and the wind's going to hit again. So it's kind of the calm before the storm, really. And it also gets a lot more nervous because there's always more road furniture when you're passing through any cities. So yeah, this is a nervous time now for the peloton. And when you look at the route, there's plenty more crosswinds coming up. The last 14 kilometres especially, I think, could be pretty tricky. So it's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah, that's when we get out of Mesagne with around 15, 14 Ks to go and head to Brindisi, where we'll finish today. This is the town of Francavilla Fontana. See, the road service wasn't amazing going through there as well. We've got furniture, as you were talking about, too. Loads of people everywhere. And even through the last time we went through, Brian, we saw a couple of crashes as well. And the nerves have just been increased and frayed, and more frayed as the day's going on. And that's just not helping things.
It's a noise as well, and the spectators at the side of the road, it gets at you. And, the speed is now up at the front of the peloton by the Koenig Quick-Step, which means that CCC have got a harder job of trying to get back here. But, it does look as if, because of the nervousness coming through the town, the road furniture, the noise, everything starting to echo around the buildings here. It's Thomas again, yet again, is back there riding on the front. It's just so nervous a stage, but I think Taconi Quick-Step in the group in front, the main group, the peloton, has realised that it's better to kind of put a little bit more pressure on and try and keep Almeida towards the front.
Thomas again doing another job for Harm van Hoeken yet again. Interesting that Thomas again to the rescue once more. He's done that on countless occasions already today. Conor, I know it's a job you've done as a big rouleur domestique rider who can ride strong on the front. I hope they thank you at the end of the day, as we're about to go off to a very quick commercial break. Jos van Enden and the rest looking after Steven Kruiswijk. We know that Van Enden is moving up now, as we can see it. We know that Kingston has been doing a good job. Tony Martin's caught out behind. This time Simon Yates is up close to the front. He has riders with him. Wilco Kelderman has been invariably positioned at the front today. Sunweb, one of the teams that's done a really good job, I think, alongside the Koenig Quick-Step. Conor, I'd be interested to know from you, because we've been talking about poor old Dylan Zakarin, and there's often seems to be that there's a handful of riders who always get caught out by these things. You're fresh out of the peloton. In the bunch, are there riders who have a reputation for things like that? It's always the same riders who are caught out?
A little bit, yeah, Rob. I don't want to drop any names.
Without being nasty, obviously.
Come on, a little bit. It's this riders you keep out of the way.
There are a bit, I guess. There are a bit, yeah. I mean, when it's so nervous like this, you're going to have to throw your weight around a bit. You're going to have to stand your ground, and just naturally some guys are better than that than others. Some guys are better bike handling, the same as some riders are stronger on mountains. So yeah, it is a factor when you are jostling for position, and when the gaps are so tight, when everything's so nervous and there's so much at stake, it just makes the crashes so easy to happen as well. And it's mentally tiring as well. A stage like this is so mentally tiring. If you think you've got to switch on the whole time, if you don't concentrate for a split second, you could quite easily be on the ground. And doing that for 4 or 5 hours, 6 hours, it's a tough ask.
Mentally tiring as well as physically. So Zakarin at 47 seconds, Ganna at 1 minute and 13. This is the front of the bunch. And it's all happening again. They're all in the gutter over the road there. The wind is coming from the right of your picture.
Yeah, it's just about
and
to happen
that mental
again.
Stress as well as that physical stress again.
Yeah, just about to happen. Sunweb not put anything wrong today. Jumbo-Visma towards the front with Kruiswijk, so you can just see Sagan coming up. Once you see the riders that are very experienced, the strong riders coming towards the front, you know that anything can happen pretty soon.
Mitchelton Scott have Meyer up towards the front this time. Sagan is never far away. Alongside him is his mate from a different team, Vincenzo Nibali. And here comes the pink jersey, momentarily caught out there for the first time today. On the right-hand side, he's just being brought up to the front by Ballerini. While those of you have been away on the break with the television, by the way, you can watch uninterrupted on the Eurosport app or the GCN Race Pass. There's been a little bit of movement at the front of the bunch from Jumbo-Visma and from Sunweb. There was a moment where it almost split again. The wind was blowing once more. You can see it's a little more protected where they are now with the trees across the road, but it is going to open up again. The Koenig Quick-Step, I think, Conor, for the first time in the whole day, made a little bit of a mistake. They were caught down at about 30th or 40th place. There was no panic for them, though. They managed to get back in, and they're at the front again. As we look back at Zakarin, 36 seconds down. And Pozzo Vivo, by the way, we think is down with Ganna a little further back. It's stressful moments, Conor Dunn.
It is very stressful moments, and I think the reason we're not seeing it totally kick off just yet is because the wind is kind of a cross headwind at the moment, so we're not seeing that kind of acceleration in pace. It's normally really tough when it's a cross tailwind, when you're kind of doing speeds of 50, 60k an hour, and that would just kind of amplify any gaps that are in the peloton. So for the moment, it kind of looks a little bit like people are kind of waiting to see what will happen, but the road is turning later in the stage, so I think we're definitely going to see some more splits develop.
Well, this is what's being labelled as the Filippo Ganna group, but just look at the graphic up there, Brian. There's a white jersey on that graphic as well. So this is the group that's being pulled on, not just by Ganna, but also by De Gent, because Harm Verhoeven is in there. We also were told that Domenico Pozzovivo was further back. I'd like to see which group he's in as well, because he was involved in that crash, and you could imagine, even though we haven't seen him here, you would imagine that he might be a little further back, unless he was brought back up to the front straight away. One man who hasn't really left the front, although he nearly came a cropper there, Peter Sagan.
Yeah, even the experienced riders are kind of looking around at the wrong times, and yeah, just another narrowing. Nobody wants to give an inch, and every 5 kilometres we got this kind of narrowing of the roads. Deconi Quickstep just taking control yet again. You never know when it's going to happen, but yeah, Van Hoeke, I think, caught behind that crash this time more than being caught out of position.
Yeah, you can see the white jersey having to put his foot on the ground. That's twice today, by the way, he's been caught in crashes. Poor old Harm Verhoeven. Not staying out of Harm's way. Not a good day for him today, after being caught out in the wind at the start. 30 k's to go still, though. Still seeing all the main sprinters up here, I think, as well. Main casualties so far are GC names. Ilno Zakarin, before today, sitting very prettily, 13th at 1:44, with his main terrain to come. As we look back to the third group, and this is the King of the Mountains, Filippo Ganna, winner of 2 stages out of the 6 we've already had at this Giro d'Italia. Back to the front of the race, a little more sheltered at the moment, and as Connor was explaining, the wind coming sort of from the top left of your screen right now, more of a cross headwind, but that is going to change again. This is the group that includes Hector Carretero already in the breakaway. There is Van Hoeke. A couple of riders from Cofidis involved as well. NTT riders there. But where is Domenico Pozzovivo?
I think Pozzovivo is in the Zakarin group. I think he is. So he's at 51 seconds now. Or is he?
Well, that's the Zakarin group, and I can't see an NTT jersey. I did see a blue jersey like you then, and think it might have been him, but it was a Movistar rider up the back. If he made it across to this group, he would have done very, very well.
He may be actually in this front group now, because he wasn't that far behind. He was in front of the blue jersey group in Zakarin.
Well, he was caught in the crash, and we saw him trying to get on. If he got on, then that's great news. Now, let's have a look.
You won't see him in there. You know the size of him.
You need a closer shot than that. Again, the group is losing ground, though. Not good news for Van Hoeke. Let's go and have a look at the finish. Time to chat to our expert, Bernie Eisel.
I keep it short today because there's enough happening out there already. When they come into Brindisi, 4 kilometers to go. They leave the 2 carriageway and go into a roundabout. It gets really, really narrow, opens up at the exit again. And then they come to the 2 kilometer banner, right-hand turn 90 degrees, still full gas, followed by another right-hand turn 90 degrees at 1.4. There it really gets small and narrow. Another corner, left-hand turn 90 degrees, and then they come down here where we can see a little chicane up there. That could cause also some trouble. And then they come to the last left-hand turn, coming full gas through here. It opens up again. We can see the 1K banner, one straight line, and it will turn into a headwind on the finish straight. For me, the big favorite today is Elia Viviani.
Big favourite is Elia Viviani. We heard him feeling more confident. We saw him win, not the intermediate sprint, but the best of the rest. And we're hearing that, well, we just had a look at that last group, and Pozzovivo's not there. So in terms of our doubt before we heard from Bernie Eisel there, I think Pozzovivo is in the front group. So that's very good that he's got back on, because you don't want anybody losing out on the GC because of the crash. So back to that finish. Viviani the favourite. Do you agree, gentlemen? Brian, you go first.
He's gained some confidence, but from what I've seen so far, it would be a big vault forward. I know he was up there in the first of Demar's wins, but he doesn't have the right leader. And I think looking back over the years, as soon as he moves away from his lead-out train and does it himself. He doesn't always come up trumps. He does need a bit more of a lead-out, and depending how Consoni and Nathan Haas have kind of dealt with these crosswinds, you know, whether they'll be able to help him or not. Demar is on fire. He's the favourite today, bar none. But I'm going to go with Gaviria. Gaviria, I've got the whole team. We heard it from his interview. Gaviria, I think a lot more pressure on him. He's got some good lead-out guys. Time for Ricchesi to step up and look after him. He was in the front group with Viviani, which shows well and bodes well. So I'm going for Gaviria.
Well, with 25 kilometres left, we did see a couple of Cofidis riders out in the back group there. Interesting to see how they get on. Said that Viviani might not need all of his lead out. Connor Dunn, you heard from Bernie Eisel, we've heard from Brian Smith. Do you agree with Bernie's assessment that it's Viviani the favourite?
Yeah, I think Viviani's definitely going to challenge today. I think the fact that it's been such a nervous stage and that kind of the peloton has split up so much already, it might actually benefit him, because some sprinters have lost some of their lead-out men in groups that are behind on the road. I think one rider that I'm going to go for is Peter Sagan. I think he's been challenging so well and he's been so close. Demar is obviously on fire, but I think Sagan is going to benefit from the pure chaos of the day today. He's just so good when it comes to the technical stuff. It does look like a technical run into the finish as well, with some tight corners in the city, so I'm going to go with Sagan.
Yes, that kilometre between 2.2 kilometres to go and 1.2 kilometres to go, where you've got all the twists and turns. 4 90-degree turns in that. As we see another of these barriers, but it's a much smaller group now and they're a bit more streamlined. Behind we've got a group at 1 minute, by the way, as the other two groups have come together. So the Zakarin, Verhoeven and Ganna groups are together. At the front, you mentioned Peter Sagan there, Connor, has not won any bike race since the 10th of July 2019. And we've been talking about Elia Viviani. Cofidis haven't been to this race for 10 years. They won a stage then, but of course it's been 10 years without a Giro d'Italia stage win for them. Elia Viviani signed for Cofidis in the winter. He is yet to take a single victory in his new colours. It is time, but I think good news for Zakarin, Verhoeven and company is that they're in the cars. There's rather a large convoy, and there's a great chance for them to get back on here, Brian.
I think this is a Zakarin group. I'm sure that
the other groups came together, Brian. The other groups seem to come together.
Yeah, it looks as if they've all come together and, you know, they're getting on at the right time. Let's hope everybody gets to the finish okay, because, yeah, it's going to be a mad finish. A lot of tired legs, and a lot of teams get benefit from this, you know, a long hard day like this. And, you know, Viviani will be there or thereabouts, Sagan for sure. You know, but as I said, it could be a messy sprint. With the amount of energy these riders have given out to keep their sprinter towards the front, or their GC rider towards the front today, they're going to pay for it in the end.
Well, this is Brindisi where we finish. The sun is out. The wind's still blowing out of town. Nice 22 degrees, but look at that. Wind speed, 31 kilometres per hour. And it's coming in from the north, from the Adriatic. If you're just joining us today, we are in Puglia, in the southeast of Italy. Right on the hill, there's Simon Yates on the left in the yellow and black. Already been caught out by the crosswinds once. We're heading towards Mezzagna now. And when we turn away from Mezzagna, you saw on that map that there's a long bit of straight road. We've already had these riders at the bottom of your picture caught out by a crash. It looks as though they will get back in there. So Zakarin, Verhoeven, Ganna will all be back before we get to the next bit of fun, we think. Because I think, Connor, you were saying that when we leave Mezzagna, it becomes much more exposed again. You can see on that shot that there's not a hill or a mountain anywhere near here. If the wind blows, it's all up for grabs again. And I guess, Connor, this is the moment that there will be 15 Ks to go. The stage is up for grabs. There's an opportunity to make any sort of gaps again in the GC, you can get on the coattails of a move, it really will be time to put the hammer down and try and put your rivals in the gutter.
Yes, for sure. I think previous to this, teams have kind of been waiting. They've been not wanting to put all their cards on the table, but once you get inside 15 kilometres to go, the pace in the peloton is naturally just going to increase and increase. And if there's any sign of a crosswind and you're caught out at the back, you're going to feel that, and you're not going to want to be at the back of the peloton in these next kilometres, I tell you.
Well, after we saw the crash earlier on, this is what I think a lot of you will be very happy to see. Of course, we don't mind seeing time gaps on the road, do we, when they're forced by some good racing in the wind or racing in the mountains, as we see over the course of a 3-week race. But we don't want to see gaps caused by crashes. And that particular crash behind left a lot of riders worrying for their position. They've had to work hard to get back on, but they are back on. So Zakharin's back in the group, Verhoeven's back in the group. And for certain riders, it's been the umpteenth scare of the day. Now, Brian, we've said it a few times, but there cannot be any mistakes now in the last 20 kilometres.
I tell you what, when they set out today and the first crosswind started, you know, to get to 21.6 to go and it being all together, I think they'll take that. A lot of these riders, they'll be thankful of that, because it could have been so much worse. So we've got a bit of a kind of calm before the final run in towards the finish. And like I said, in the team meeting, if you can get to this point and you're still in the main punch, then that's a huge plus.
On our way along the wide open roads, beautiful vineyards left and right as we look at it, to Brindisi. Before we get there, we will perform a slight turn on Via Marconi at Mesagne. Then we'll head on the old Via Pia. Destination today is Viale Palmira Togliatti, right in the centre of Brindisi. First time we've had a stage finish in Brindisi since 1971. The only time we've ever had here was in a time trial relay, starting in Lecce, finished in Brindisi. It was a strange stage that started the Giro in 1971. So this is a proper road stage for the first ever time coming here. Not too far from the famous Salento region of Puglia, but not officially in it. Heard this morning, listening to some of our Italian colleagues, saying it was part of Greater Salento, so they could loosely be associated with it. Some great wine from down there. Fantastic mozzarella cheese as well, if you like burrata. Puglia is the place to come. That's the sort of mozzarella you can spread around. Olive oil. Some beautiful food. And it is a beautiful part of the world. Lots of beaches around. We've seen the Ionian coast. I think we're heading to the Adriatic side now. And of course the heel pokes itself into the Mediterranean as it's about to narrow again.
Breathe in.
This is what we saw before. Breathe in. They'll have been a bit more aware of that one. A few reminders on the radio, you imagine. 20 kilometres to go on stage 7 of the Giro. It's time to switch on. In all truth, it has been time to switch on since the start today. Just a few kilometres had elapsed when De Koning Quickstep put the hammer down and forced the first splits. That went on for around 40 kilometres or so. It came back together. We've had nervousness, we've had crashes, we've had problems. But the wind is blowing all day long today from the north, off the Adriatic Sea and on to the southeastern plains of Italy. We've left Matera and Basilicata. We're now heading to Brindisi and Puglia. Taking in our 4th different region of Italy after starting in Sicily. But no time to think of anything cultural. It's all about the racing now. 19 Ks to go, the speed is up. I'm Rob Hatch in the commentary box, alongside me Connor Dunn and Brian Smith. And gentlemen, you can tell that the speed has increased. As soon as they came past that banner there again, it's nice and open again. And Brian, for the Maglia Rosa, really important moments in the race. And look at acceleration there just to hold the wheel.
He's done well, and now we're starting to see the reaction now. You can see Trek Segafredo starting to push, and look at the acceleration from De Koning Quickstep now. So nobody knows when it's going to kick off, but Elio Kaiser yet again realises change of direction, you know, potential crosswinds, goes to the front. Trek Segafredo are there, Fuglsang luckily is there, but all it needs is a change of direction. That's why you need to be, you know, getting exact information from your car behind, know the routes, have the experience, and pressure now being applied at the front again. It's Nicola Conci at the front in the navy, white and red. Just behind him was Jesper Hansen, the rider from Cofidis. And he's riding because Consonni and Viviani are in there. Just in front of the two in red is Vincenzo Nibali. And Connor, we're getting to a moment here. Look at the 62 kilometers per hour. Twists and turns. Firstly, heading into this town of Mesagne. You mentioned that after it were possibly the most dangerous parts of the race. You can see already you've got to be making those efforts to get to the front. And I suppose part of the problem, Connor, is that you've got a mix of ambition here. You have sprinters who want to win the stage, and you have GC guys who do not want to lose time.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you're a GC rider now, this is a really, really tough moment. You can potentially lose the Giro here because it's just so nervous and there's such an easy chance of a crash. And I tell you what, if I was Almeida, I'd be so grateful for my teammates at the Koenig Quick-Step here because they're doing an absolutely amazing job of keeping him close to the front. In his first Grand Tour as well, this would be a super hard stage if you didn't have your teammates with you, but they're just doing a brilliant job for him now.
Did you see that?
Just saw a little moment there with Kaiser.
Yeah, he just said to Ballerini, when I go, you come with me and bring the pink jersey with you. You don't sit back, you don't hesitate. When I go, you come with me and bring the pink jersey with you.
Mitchelton Scott keeping Simon Yates very well protected on the left-hand side. Yates, the British rider, has already lost 3 and a bit minutes in the GC, sits in third wheel in the black and yellow. In fact, fourth wheel because he has the Australian champion, his teammate Cameron Meyer, just in front of him. At the back wearing number 13 and riding pretty unlucky is Jefferson Cepeda. Doesn't look like he is going to make any of the splits here, but of course he's not going for GC, nor would he be expected to win the stage today. All of the action up the front. And you look round to see who might be out of position. Those in red and white through the middle, as we've talked about. Bernie Eisel's favourites are Cofidis, not interested in the pink jersey. They simply want a stage win at the Giro d'Italia for the first time in a decade. Pink jersey is there, left-hand side of the picture as we looked at it then. He's to the right here, just behind those riders in blue and white. Another rider in blue and white is moving up. It looks like Honoré. Seri at the moment at the front. And we're into Mesagne. Not too far from Ostuni. Very, very famous, of course, in Puglia. Or, it's got a rather peculiar name in English, hasn't it? It's Apulia, they call it. Not used too often, but there is an official translation of Puglia into Apulia in English. Pozzovivo being brought to the front by NTT as well. Apparently this town built in a heart shape. But as Connor said, they won't be loving, at least all of them, these final 15 kilometres. Nervous moments. And some speed through here. Sagan always close to the front. He's on the right-hand side in the black, white and green. He's not too far away from the Jumbo-Visma riders. And Steven Kruijswijk is the man that they're looking after. Dutch GC contender.
Looking after himself.
Looking after himself. He was the man just moving across on the left. That arm bandaged up. Well, you thought they'd be doing a better job. But he's experienced enough, Brian, to know where to be and when.
That's the thing. As a GC leader, or even if you got a jersey, sometimes you have to make little efforts yourself. You cannot just kind of follow your teammates the whole time. So it's making these small efforts.
His teammates are behind him. Just look at that picture. Kruijswijk is the most advanced in yellow. He has 4 teammates, but all split up and out of position. Certainly when you compare it to what's happening on the left-hand side for the Koenig Quick-Step. But they've lost the pink jersey 2 wheels behind there.
Yeah, he's just behind Bora Hansgrohe, and he's safe there. He would be safer a little bit further up, but it's so difficult, and that's why we see Kruijswijk just make a little bit of effort towards the front. It's a lot easier to be there than follow your teammates. Sometimes some riders are fantastic at going through the bunch, some riders just aren't, and you know, they wait till the road opens up a little bit so they can move up. So now is an opportunity, pink jersey, to move up with his teammates. Now we're into a big wide road now.
And Connor, this is the stretch of road that you were talking about now. 14 kilometers to go. It is wide open.
Yes, it is, and it's all in one direction as well. So whatever the wind direction is now, it's going to stay the same until we hit Brindisi in those final few corners. Sagan is looking in good position as well. He's got quite a few teammates around him and nicely positioned on the Koenig quick step as well. So it's looking pretty ominous, I think.
Left-hand side, the Koenig quick step. Pozzo Vivo being kept safe by one rider through the centre. Drinks being brought up for the Trek Segafredo riders. Haas is close to the front in the white and red for Cofidis. The Australian rider lives in the northeast of Spain nowadays. And if you're looking for Arnaud Démare, the sprinter in form, he's on the right of the picture now, but today he swapped that French flag for a purple jersey. That purple jersey, the Maglia Ciclamino, and he was at the front of the moment ago. But Simon Yates is towards the back again now. This is Boaro. Koenig Quickstep haven't moved. Vincenzo Nibali never far away. The nerves are there. Sunweb will be trying to move up a little bit here as well, Brian, because they've been very close to the front all day long. They're just sort of boxed in on the left as we look at it now in those white jerseys, sitting behind Bora Hansgrohe. And I guess this is the explanation of what we were trying to talk about earlier on. There's only so much room on the road, isn't there?
There is, but I've just got a funny feeling that we might not see a lot of kind of crosswind action. We did say we go in one direction, and the wind doesn't have to be a strong crosswind. It's the speed of the riders, but for me at the moment it's just everybody wants to be at the front. They're all kind of setting themselves up. 12 kilometers to go. It doesn't have the feeling to me that you know, some teams are going to kind of take it on and put this into echelons.
NTT with Victor Capanaz, who was there keeping Domenico Pozzovivo out up to the front. That's the church that was built in the mid-1600s. Mother Church of Mezzagni. What's your feeling about this, Connor? Because Pozzovivo is trying not to make that mistake. We know it's not easy for him, but he's doing well. But I think now we're just starting to see a little bit of movement again.
Yeah, it's really on the edge, I think. To be honest, I think it's too much of a headwind for anything to really kick off properly. But now you're kind of getting to the point where 10 kilometers to go. We do have a few roundabouts coming into Brindisi. GC hopefuls will be wanting to position themselves before 3 kilometers to go, make sure they don't lose any time if there is a crash. So I think it's the finish really that's coming now more than the crosswinds. I think people are more nervous about any crashes coming in towards the finish. Ben Swift actually really nicely positioned at the front. 2 teammates.
And there he is, the centre of your picture.
Be great to see him get a result today.
It would be. I mean, we saw him yesterday working for Narvaez, didn't we, Brian? You would think that Swift is going to get an opportunity for himself at some point, isn't he?
Yeah, when Geraint Thomas dropped out, you know, all the team were going to get their opportunity. Gann has taken him, and wow, what a stage that was for Filippo. But I think Narvaez was kind of earmarked for the stage yesterday, came up a little bit short. And I'm sure that Ben is, you know, he's put his hand up for a couple of stages yet to come. I'm not too sure that he's suited to this type of stage. If it was crosswinds, yeah, he's, you know, it comes to a reduced bunch finish. Ben is fast. He's not as fast as maybe, you know, the likes of kind of Démare and Sagan and these types, but he likes a kind of lumpy, kind of hard all day. And let's not forget, he's had some good performances in the kind of longest classic there is, Milan-San Remo. So he'll be looking for a kind of long, hard day and a kind of medium mountain stage to maybe take his opportunity.
10 kilometres to go on stage 7, 1,000 kilometres ridden since the start in Sicily. And they have been 1,000 of the most chaotic and entertaining kilometres we've seen in the Giro d'Italia. Always offers so much each year, this race. this year is no different. It's been bumper, it's been brilliant. Let's see what happens in the final 10 today. The entrance to Brindisi just up the road. There's Arnaud Demar, who's won 2 stages so far for Groupama FDJ. Who's going to challenge him today? The Koenig Quick-Step looking after the pink jersey, also starting to think maybe about their own sprint finish as well. Will it be a day for Alvaro Hodge today? We've not seen him have a go yet.
I would think so. They put Kaiser back on the first of Demar's wins to try and kind of help him back. I would say this is a bit more suited to Ballerini, but Ballerini, he came so close in that stage, so it'll be their choice. Who's the best? Either Ballerini or Hodge. They'll have to make a choice.
Chat between Campanarts and the team car. Belgian time trialist protecting his Italian GC contender Domenico Pozzovivo. Pozzovivo started the day in his home region. Next door, he'll be hoping to just get over safe. And look at how uncomfortable he is on the bike there. That injured elbow, absolutely destroyed by those crashes. But his form is said to be incredible. And I suppose he's shown it so far in the racing. You know, this is the stage that will have worried him the most. You know, he's not scared by the mountains, is he? That's his terrain. But he's getting through it. He's had help to do so. He's avoided that crash, and despite all the uncomfortable nature of his position there on the bike, and let's face it, he's never looked the best on the bike because of his size and his stature, but he's doing a great job there right at the front.
Yes, and he's done well so far. I'm not too sure the chiropractor of the team will like to hear the knock on the door every day and try and, you know, help him out, because it looks as if, you know, the right shoulder's up, the left shoulder's down because of that elbow. He's all over the place, but we know he's not got the, you know, a magnificent style, but he's been some rider, especially in the Giro d'Italia over the years.
Look at this, how they look after the leader. Pink jersey on the right-hand side.
Try to get him to the left.
Out of position. They're bringing him over on the right-hand side, and you can just see, make that effort there. He's being dragged up, and he's going to move up to the left as we can see it.
The trouble is, it was James Knox that was in front of him, and James doesn't have the power to get past the riders that were in front of him, because James wanted to get him over to the left-hand side with the rest of his team. Poor wee James.
It's a great illustration, though, Connor, of the work that's required to look after a rider when he just loses the wheel.
Yeah, sometimes it can actually be quite hard if you're on the wheel, if you're getting protected, but say you're 7th man back in that line, you can kind of be put into the washing machine of the peloton, and you haven't got the confidence, you can be knocked off your team quite easily, even if you're the pink jersey, to be honest. So I think what happened there, he was knocked off his teammates, ended up on the wrong side of the peloton, and he had to be brought up the other side all the way around and back to the majority of the Koenig Quick-Step riders.
There's a roundabout coming up here, just in a few signals. And this is that moment again. Look, a couple of looks behind from Knox, Knox has got his arm out there.
Yeah, because of the sign at the side of the road there, it was just encroaching. They're trying to get him up. Knox is trying to get him on the wheel. He moves up. And then
that was Ballerini, by the way, doing the work.
Yeah.
That was Ballerini at the front. So again, if they were protecting him for the sprint, would they have him doing that job?
Yeah, you have to. It's pink jersey first and foremost, but when you're at the front, you can see the Koenig Quick-Step is to punch not just go in one line, but trying to punch a kind of bigger hole, kind of spread out a little bit, and make the front, because a lot of these riders are all in one line, and that means that the kind of speed is on, but sometimes you want to kind of try and kind of bunch up a little bit, so that you can stay in team order. Like Connor says, you can get, if you're 5 or 6 back, you can get into the kind of washing machine effect, but you know, this is just a drag race round this dual carriageway now, just purely for position.
6 Ks to go. Movistar doing that job at the moment. Eduardo Sepulveda towards the front. Just behind him, Albert Torres in the blue as well. Antonio Pedrero, wearing 143, is the man being protected and kept at the front. He's at the back of that train. Still sits at a decent place in the general classification, actually. 1 minute 56 back, the Catalan rider. In fact, he's got Cataldo second wheel, and Torres is the man just sitting in front there of Pedrero. This is Brindisi. Looks rather beautiful, but it's going to get chaotic before we can appreciate that. And those final 5 kilometers heading in. There's around about 4 kilometers that they have to take the right-hand side on, while still on this very famous Via Appia. Just before 2Ks to go is a right-hand turn, 90 degrees. Another after that, then it's left, then it's right. Final kilometer, straight into the line. Five Ks remain. The Koenig Quick Step looking for a win and looking to keep the pink jersey safe. NTT are up there with Pozzo Vivo. In the middle of the picture, it's Groupama FD Giro looking after Demar. He wants a hat-trick of wins already in 7 days. Lotto Soudal right in the left-hand side now in the black and red. Of course, it's been a stressful day for them with Harm Verhoeven. They want to keep him safe and get him home, tick off the day. Most of the guys, I think, after all the drama today, Brian, will be wanting to just tick it off, get home safe, get on to tomorrow. But there's a group of sprinters who know that there is a win up for grabs.
A lot of people are happy still to be here, still a main group. That, you know, when you consider what happened at the start of today's stage, it could have been in bits. But Israel's Startup Nation on the left-hand side trying to look after their sprinter, Rudy Barbier. He's the rider just in the right in front of the Ineos rider. But it's just narrowing down a little bit with 4 kilometres to go, and we'll get this all the way in. But the pace is now being increased by Koenig Quick Step.
Israel Startup Nation, who have never won a stage at the Giro d'Italia. Rudy Barbier, one of 39 riders making his Grand Tour debut at this race. The 27-year-old going to get an opportunity today after not yet making any of the finishes. This is going to be the first proper bunch sprint we have had since the start of this Giro d'Italia, and we're already a week in.
Yeah, and who'd have thought that about 70, 80 kilometres ago?
It's been another dramatic day. Didn't quite explode where we expected it to explode, but it has gone off, this one today. The Koenig Quick Step yet again. Honoré at the front on the left-hand side. Behind him is Kessa. Who are they riding for today? Is it Ballerini or is it Hodge? On the right, you can see Steven Kruijswijk being brought to the front. He's sitting in third wheel there. He wants to get beyond this 3 kilometre to go marker and stay out of trouble. Tony Martin coming to work and clocking on before he'll clock off for the end of the day in a minute. 3 Ks to go. Kruijswijk kept safe, and that's one barrier already passed for the GC guys. Any crashes or incidents here, they will get the same time as they're beyond that 3K to go marker. UAE Emirates waiting for them to come to the front for Fernando Gaviria. Looks as though they're about to appear on the right-hand side in their white jerseys. Somewhere not far away, chance for Michael Matthews maybe. And looking at Gaviria, it's on the left-hand side. Today he's going to be led out by Sebastian Molano.
Yeah, Ricchesi also
here comes
there.
Israel Startup Nation on the right, Brian.
Yeah, Ricchesi still there, but none of the sprinters teams taking this up for the moment. It's still Jumbo-Visma, so a sit and wait for the riders from Groupama FDJ.
This is the first of several right angle turns in this next kilometre. Right turn here, followed by another yet again. It's Jos Fernando who takes it in the yellow, looking for his leader, Steven Kruijswijk. The sprint teams at the minute, Brian, seem to be holding off. We've got another right turn coming up, but as I say that, here come Groupama FDJ. The lead out starts for them.
Yeah, they've got numbers. They're leaving it late. GC rider over here on the right-hand side is Steven Kruijswijk, but they have got so many numbers here, Groupama FDJ. But I think the riders from Koenig Quick Step, Ballerini and Hodge, just basing their, like everybody, I think, will base their sprint off the train of Groupama.
Well, Ben Swift is following the wheels at the moment as well. He's sitting in fourth position following Jumbo-Visma. There's a left turn coming up here. Another 90 degree before the last one comes up just after it. And right before we get that to kilometre go. Again, making it more difficult each time to close the gap. There is Demar in the cyclamen jersey on the left-hand side for Groupama FDJ. Peter Sagan is around him. You can just see behind Ben Swift still there in the white jersey. Not far away is Fernando Gaviria as well. This is the final turn now, and they can see the finish line up ahead. 1 kilometre to go. Great job being done for Steven Kruijswijk today by Jos van Emden. That is the GC guys in position. Now it's down to the sprint trains, and it's Groupama FDJ who take it up. There's a little bit of shoulder barging going on behind, and it's involving Arnaud Demar. Just sitting behind him is Rax Richese. Richese will be the man after Molano to lead out, of course, Fernando Gaviria. It's Molano who's coming up on the left as we look at it now, but 700 meters to go, turns to 6, and Groupama are still there. Looking down for Peter Sagan, he's just following the wheels and sitting on the wheel of Gaviria right now. 500 meters remain, and look for Arnaud Demar, the sprinter of the moment, in 3rd position, and in that Maglia Ciclamino, here though come UAE Emirates. It's Richese moving up, aborts his move as he's stuck on the wheel. Oh, it's all over the place. It's a right messy one, this, and it's going to be led out by Groupama FDJ. There goes Guarnieri, going to the line now. It's going to be launched very, very late indeed, and it's going to be Demar going all the way. Sagan behind him, Demar. Oh, and he's going to win at a canter. It's easy, does it, for Arnaud Demar, and a hat-trick for the Frenchman, who increases his lead in the Maglia Ciclamino. And there was really no contest there. Another win for Arnaud Demar. It's stage 7 of the Giro d'Italia, and Brian Smith, it's easy, does it?
Incredible when you think of it. Even Sagan, he's been showing that he's got really good form. Couldn't even come off the wheel of Arnaud Demar there. It was such a strong sprint. He is on fire. Whether it's hard uphill before the finish like yesterday, flat finish like today. But when you saw a few days ago, there was nothing much between Sagan and Demar. But that was well done. They held back. They hit out at the right time, and fastest man in the race won yet again.
Arnaud Demar, he's done it. We've had 7 stages at this 2020 Giro d'Italia. 3 of them have gone to the French national champion. Arnaud Demar is on fire. It was a messy sprint again. It was all over the place a little bit. But of course, if you stayed at the front and you'd done your work into that last kilometre, you had the best positions, and those who did that were in the best place to launch it. Again, Groupama FDJ controlled things, and that left Demar with an easier job. Here it is again, Brian.
Yeah, Milano comes up, or was it Richese just comes up the left-hand side there, but at the moment Gaviria was there, Sagan was there, and then we saw the hit out from Deconi Quickstep, going nowhere at the moment, but as soon as Demar takes it up, Gaviria just sits up, no power, no nothing. Good job from Ben Swift to get up there, but look at Sagan, no reaction. He couldn't react. He was on his limit, absolutely on his limit, and he was on the wheel of Demar.
Matthews up there against Swift.
Yep.
Good ride from him. We noted he was towards the front. There is Rudy Barbier, and behind, I think this time it was Álvaro Hodge who was sprinting. Álvaro Hodge wearing 83 there. He's the man having a go. This is Demar. Again, Sagan knowing he's not going to get through there this time. 2nd place, Barbier coming around. Swift finishing 4th, Barbier in 5th. Hodge straight after that with Ballerini just behind him.
When you look at it from the sprint, right, he hits out now. Sagan just waiting.
Gaviria gives up.
Yeah, he just sits up straight away. He knew he wasn't. He's only interested in trying to win. Throw the bike from Demar. I don't think there was anything to he's just getting used to throwing the bike, I think it is. But I think Deconi Quickstep with Ballerini and Hodge got that totally wrong. But Sagan, right place at the right time. But this man is just so much faster than anybody else at the moment, and so much power.
Well, Deconi Quickstep, as we said, have got several jobs at the moment. The main job of the day has been done by this man. Arnaud Demar wins stage 7, increases his lead in the Maglia Ciclamino, and yet again, Peter Sagan finishes 2nd. Super victory from Arnaud Demar. Today's the first real day they were targeting. They came into it with 2 bonus wins under their wings already, and they have certainly won well today. The first proper stage finish in Brindisi has been won by Arnaud Demar. Mix up behind for Deconi Quickstep. Maybe a whatever we were doing moment from UAE Emirates. They didn't really get it right at all. Knew that Molano is in there. I'd forgotten about Richese for a minute. He did come up at the end. A lot of firepower there for UAE Emirates to be misfiring. But there are bullets that are hitting the target every time they're fired at the moment by Arnaud Démare. Let's get the expert's view. Here is Bernie Eisel.
Great teamwork by Groupama FDC again. Guarnieri delivers Arnaud Démare to his third victory here in the Giro d'Italia. Amazing teamwork, and it was all about teamwork today. Also in the echelons, we could see two teams really controlling the race today, and that was Jumbo-Visma and the Koenig Quickstep. With there, two experienced riders, Jos van Emden and Ilio Kaiser. For me, you need, in a big team, you need experienced riders because they can read the race, they bring the guys to the front, make important decisions, and that's what they did today. It was great to see these two guys leading the younger guys, actually, to perfection. And Almeida was never in trouble, and even Stefan Kruijswijk, who is a lightweight and not really a man for the crosswinds, but he was never in trouble, so it was really well. Like chaperons, they guided them through the race, and again, a great win by Arnaud Démare.
Arnaud Démare was there. Where was Elia Viviani? I can see Consonni, but I cannot see Viviani. There he is, back of this bunch. Never really in the mix. Disappointing for him after it had looked so good. Well played, Ben Swift in the top four. And this is how it looks in the general classification. No change on a day where there could have been substantial changes. Joao Almeida takes the Maglia Rosa yet again, and he'll be feeling better and better as the days go by. Wilco Kelderman in second at 48 seconds. Pello Bilbao third on the podium at 49. The top 20, pardon me, still looks like this with no change for Yates. It could have been a bad day for him. Still in 19th and still in the game, you'd say, at 3:58. Masnada in 12th at 1:44. Pedrero, a couple of seconds lost for him in a bit of a split there, actually, at 2:02, and ouch. Not good news for Patrick Gamper. This is what we saw at the finish line. 13th win of the year for Arnaud Démare, who's on to his statistically most successful year of his career. That was the finish. Let's have a look at what you missed. We thought we'd had a calm, settled start. 4 riders out in a breakaway. Little did we know that it'd only last around 20 Ks. 20 Ks before they were caught, but the action soon started 10 Ks after that. A little look around from the Koenig Quickstep. Okay, boys, let's go to work. Jumbo-Visma going with them. And the first splits were formed. Several riders caught out, and we're just over, or just under 100 kilometers to go. Simon Yates still at 52 seconds. 2 of the front groups, though, would come back together. Bilbao, Majka, saving the day. $82 Ks to go, and the first chance to breathe. Everybody back together after a chaotic start. Then we had another attack. Androni had to be up the road, and Vinny Zabou would follow them. With 76 kilometers to go, we got to Taranto, and there'd be the first of several crashes. Quite a few riders involved. Harm Verhoeven, one of them. A couple of Sunweb riders down too. We wondered, we worried. 26 Ks to go. Ganna and company off the back for Hooker with him. Zakharin there as well. eventually get back in there. And after it had all come back together, we hadn't had the expected wind in the last 20 Ks. There was an intermediate little bit of truce, and we had the final sprint itself. Groupama FDJ doing a great job. Jumbo-Visma keeping their man safe and contributing to it being all stretched out. And Arnaud Démare doing what Arnaud Démare's done throughout the Giro. Win. What a win it was as well. And Peter Sagan on very good form, but he can't beat this man. Just when he's beating everybody else, there's still someone in front of him. And Sagan, another second place. And the wait for a win since the 10th of July last year goes on another day at least.
Ramon Sinkeldam, once again a fantastic lead-out train for Arnaud Démare. Third victory, that's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. In 7 days, 3 victories, 1 real bunch sprint and 2 really hard ones. Not everything is perfect, but the results are, yeah.
What about the lead-out train today? I saw that at a certain point Richese taught something to maybe you or Guarnieri. I don't know exactly who was there with him, but there was a big mess in the final turns.
Yeah, it was like until 2K to go, there were still all the CC riders in front with the teammates, and we wanted to go out. We were really blocked, and so we wanted to go to the right. I went right with all the sprinters, I think, but at this moment my teammate in front of me could pass in the middle, and Jacopo stayed on his wheel. So I lost them a little bit, but at the end the miles came in front at the last turn, I think. Better than this is not possible.
Many crashes today. What about it's been a short day because the stage has been very fast, but a messy one.
Yeah, right from the start we expected crosswinds, and it turned out to be. I think a lot of GC riders were in the second group, so they never gave up. And yeah, it's always stressful, but I don't know about the crashes. I've not seen a lot, but I heard a few guys came behind. But I hope everybody's okay.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Ramon Sinkeldam there talking about maybe what happened. The great thing we've seen about Groupama FDJ, I think, so far is the fact that even if something goes slightly wrong in their lead out, if they lose a wheel, there's always somebody to cover, there's always somebody to do the job. Scotson's done that on a couple of occasions now. It is working, having the numbers and a well-oiled train. Might be well-oiled in a different way if they can win again tomorrow. This is what's happening tomorrow, though. Giovinazzo to Vieste. It's a much more difficult stage. Up the coast. The wind continues to blow in the same direction. It'll be more of a head crosswind. And they'll turn into it. Up the hills, Monte Sant'Angelo. And heading up to the Arco Naturale del Gargano. We finish tomorrow in Vieste. That's after a lap around town, a longer day, 200 kilometers, up and down, a bit more exposed terrain after an easy start. And that'll be stage 8 of this year's Giro d'Italia. The way Démare's riding, don't put it past him. Much more cycling coming up on the home of cycling. Remember, we have Paris Tour and Gent-Wevelgem at the weekend. You can watch them both from 12:30 live on the Eurosport app or on the GCN Race Pass. Don't forget the breakaway available tonight from 7 p.m. on the Eurosport Player and the GCN Race Pass. Highlights tonight on Eurosport 2 as well. Every night on Eurosport 2 in UK and Ireland. From me, Brian, and the rest of the team, though, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll be back at 11:25. Don't miss it. Goodbye.